Testing, testing. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Testing or testing.
I hear you.
Oh gosh.
Okay, I'm broadcasting now.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining early. We'll get started here at 9:30, but it's great to see all your names and faces.
Jamie, do you want us to remain unseen and muted? Or do you want us to be seen and muted during the meeting? How do you want us to be?
So it would be great if everybody's muted unless they're speaking, but we would love you to keep your camera on if you're comfortable. If you need to step away, of course, you can turn it off. And we have this welcome slide up now, but when we start the meeting, we'll bring it down and you'll be able to see everybody's faces.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.
Good morning, Justice Guzman.
How's everybody?
Morning.
Doing well. We are live on YouTube and have most of our commissioners here, a couple people still coming in.
I recognize Judge Rucker's good morning anywhere.
And it is a good one.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
They say every day above ground is a day full of possibilities.
Amen.
You're right, Vicki.
Amen.
Cindy, I love your background.
Well, this is in the late winter outside of Las Cruces, New Mexico, where I'm from. So my brother took this picture and it's snow dusting of the desert.
Wow, gorgeous.
It is beautiful.
Mhm.
Here we go. I bought one of these selfie lights for these meetings so you could get the right light.
That's incredible. Looks perfect.
Then I tweeted about my dress. So they had this big sale for $25 and I got this dress for $25. I think that's my best bargain during post-COVID. Find a dress for 25 bucks.
Beautiful. Now, is that a fake background behind you?
Yes. So
Oh, great.
what happened is when the court moved to oral arguments online, we had to all have the same background. And so Blake Hawthorne, our clerk, took a picture of the courtroom. And so we use it as a virtual background.
Perfect.
Some of the lawyers who argue have a background and some don't. I kind of like the background. I think it like provides uniformity, but I don't think it matters in the
It looks very official.
It does. It does. It's perfect.
thanks to Blake. But Vicki, I like your background too.
Thank you. It took me 6 months to learn how to get the background. So the good news out of the pandemic is I'm becoming very slowly but surely virtually sophisticated. Hey, Luann. This is so sad. We don't see anybody anymore.
I know. Hi, Deneen. How are you?
Ann, it's good to see your face.
It's good to see you too. How are you
Yes,
doing?
Deneen,
Moved here
yeah.
to Texas.
I know, pretty crazy during a COVID.
Yeah, we'll have to catch up. I want to hear all about it.
That's great. Good to see you.
Yeah,
Welcome
well,
to Texas.
Thank you.
It is good to see you, Deneen. I didn't see your picture until you started speaking. Then it popped up. Everybody's
Yeah.
on the side, so I'm only seeing a certain number at a time. But yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Then you can also put a book under your laptop if you want the screen to sit up a little bit higher. That's been helpful.
Yeah, I've had to do that. Otherwise, because when you start looking at the how to maximize your virtual appearance, they say nobody wants to look up your nose, so you have to kind of at least be eye level with your camera, which is like, that makes a lot of sense. So here we are.
Hello, everyone. This is Paula.
Morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Paula.
Good morning, and you are welcome. I'm trying to find a professional background, so you'll see my picture shortly.
Morning, everyone.
Hi, Judge Veland. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are y'all doing?
Good. Good. All things considered.
You know, I was watching, and I think we spoke about this a while ago, the just the impact of the pandemic in South Texas. Are you guys still doing double pages of obituaries, or is it slowed down?
No, that is slowed down, but we're seeing they're reporting 20 deaths a day. So it's a lot more than what we usually see.
Yeah.
I think the new cases have gone down quite a bit, but unfortunately the death numbers are still pretty high.
So sorry. So sorry. Is that showing up in your court, by the way, with families being, you know, with the deaths impacting families and family systems and
The deaths have not. We have had our share of folks who have gotten COVID, and we have, caseworkers that have been out for a while, and we have had kids get it, but we haven't thankfully, had any litigants or any caseworkers or anybody pass away from it. We have lost a couple of attorneys who don't practice child welfare law, but members of the bar who have passed, unfortunately. So we have seen that. But as far as our kids go, we've been pretty lucky there, and their caregivers.
Good.
For those of you from Austin, we had a big attorney loss yesterday. Mr. Chris Elliott passed away yesterday.
Oh,
has
wow.
has little kids at home, and not from COVID.
Oh, okay. That was my next question. Oh, my.
It's a huge loss to the bar.
Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Masters. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
Morning. Morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good
Justice Countess.
morning.
Good to see you. Just while we have a moment, I want to thank everybody for logging on early and making sure we didn't have any technology barriers to this meeting. And we'll get started here right at 9:30.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It appears we have been live on YouTube for a few minutes to give everyone an opportunity to adjust their technology. Welcome to our final commission meeting of 2020. We're doing it virtually. We are stepping up to continue to address the issues facing children in our child welfare system, and we're doing it virtually. And we appreciate every single one of you that's been able to join us. This may be something we consider in the future. At every meeting, there are some commissioners who can't attend in person, but it would be great to make available a forum for attending the meetings where you can see us and we can see you. Many things have changed, as you know, since we last met in person in February. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted our lives. It's impacted the court system. There are numerous challenges that face any of the organizations that each of us is a member of, but our children in the child welfare system have been most impacted in ways that make our challenge to step up and to continue this important work even more pressing than it's ever been. The other thing that's happened to Texas families is the economic impact of COVID. And we had, through the Access to Justice Foundation and the Hispanic Issues section of the State Bar of Texas, a virtual event a couple of days ago. We called it Loteria. And it was a play on the Mexican bingo game, Loteria. But it was an event that highlighted the participation from Senator Judith Zaffirini, judges from all around the state, Rebecca Martinez from San Antonio, Gina Benavides from Corpus Christi, State Bar President Sylvia Boronda. So we really had many leaders come together to raise awareness and to raise funds for civil legal aid for low-income families. So I appreciated being a part of that. I actually filmed a cooking video. Rice is a staple around the table for many families. It is so in the Latino community. And so I cooked rice step by step, as sort of to help my 2 cents for the event. And anyway, I was very proud of how Texans are stepping up, and I encourage us to continue to think creatively about how to serve families in need. For a few housekeeping matters, to accommodate the virtual format, the meeting will end today no later than 1 p.m., but we won't take breaks. So you know what to do if you need to take a break. Just put your screen on and mute the microphone. And also please remain on mute unless you're speaking. That'll help us with background noise. The committee and the collaborative council members are participating in listen mode only. And we're obviously, as you know, broadcasting this meeting live on YouTube. The question and answer function is available if anyone, or the chat function if you need to speak up or get our attention. To comply with our grant requirements, our commission staff will distribute an electronic match form after the conclusion of the meeting. Thank you all again for being here. Thank you for everything that you do so we can keep up. DFPS Commissioner Jamie Masters and DFPS Deputy Commissioner Trevor Woodruff are here, and I don't see them on the screen, on my screen. So if you're here, welcome. Judge Carlos Villalon, I do see on my screen, and he is judge of the Child Protection Court of the Rio Grande Valley West. And he is also a former commissioner. We miss you so much in that capacity. He joins us today as a guest. Later in the agenda, he will be recognized by Texas CASA for his strong judicial leadership. And we all join in that recognition, Judge Villalon. You've just been an incredible leader and a tremendous force in the child welfare arena and how we serve our families. Lisa Ramirez is the director of the Texas Targeted Opioid Response Project at the Health and Human Services Commission. We'll hear from Ms. Ramirez later, and we are glad she's able to join us today. And now to tab 1. Several changes to our commission membership. First and foremost, Deneen Dryden is the new Associate Commissioner for Child Protective Services at DFPS. Ms. Dryden, please introduce yourself and tell us about your background and anything else you want to share with us about your service on the commission. There you are, I see you.
You're on mute, Ms. Dryden.
Well, it was sounding so good. Good morning. I feel very blessed to join this group. My background is licensed clinical marriage and family therapist for 20 years. I was a residential provider for the state and was serving our kids with high acuity in the state's care. I have also worked with Kansas DFPS and served in that capacity. I was very excited to come join Commissioner Masters in her venture to serve the kids of Texas and to do some innovative ways to keep kids out of our system and to get them out of our system. When I had heard about the Children's Commission, let me just tell you, I was very impressed. It's fantastic to have all these partners, especially the court-based. I mean, judges and legal stakeholders are really key to keeping DFPS kids safe. You guys help get the services that they need, help us move kids to positive permanency, and helping our young adults to support in their new independence. So I feel blessed to be a part of your commission, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much for joining us. Our Chair Emeritus, Harriet O'Neill, always remarked that no child enters or exits the child welfare system without a judge and a judge's order. And so it is something that provides a lot of context for the work that we do. And so I appreciate you and those remarks and look forward to working with you. We're also very fortunate to have Judge Rosie Alvarado of the 438th Civil District Court in Bexar County. The court appointed Judge Alvarado to the Children's Commission at its last administrative conference, and welcome Judge Alvarado, and please introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about your background and also anything about your service on the Children's Commission. There you are. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I preside over the 438th District Court in Bexar County, and I was actually very surprised by the invitation and ecstatic and excited about being able to be a part of this. I co-preside over call it a restorative court called Pros Court in Bexar County, in addition to my regular duties with the civil dockets. And the best way I can describe it is it is a mix of the Girl Scouts and Big Brothers Big Sisters meets the courts. We have some programming, and it's geared towards young women in foster care that are PNC. I wish I could take credit for founding it, but I can't. That was Judge Renee Yanta. And about 2 years ago, Judge Jimenez and I took over the program for her. She stayed on in another capacity. And we've kind of grown the program, and now we've also expanded into a boys court, also for PNC, young men, teens, called Eagles Court. So we have Pros Court and we have Eagles Court. And So when this invitation came, I was incredibly excited about the prospects of what we're seeing happen in our court setting, and potentially making it and bringing it to a larger scale in Texas, and hopefully showing folks what we're doing, and for lack of a better term, franchising our court program that we're doing, and maybe helping more children of Texas. So I'm very excited about this. I'm looking forward to meeting each of you individually and working with each of you. And I just want to say how grateful I am to be here in this wonderful audience of folks.
Thank you very much, Judge. We're really looking forward to working with you, and welcome. And we're here to support you and your work. And thank you. The other announcement that I have under Commission membership changes, Justice Michael Massengale, formerly of the First Court of Appeals in Houston, a longtime commissioner and a valuable member of our commission. The work that he did on training and on the commission has just changed the way we serve our children. And so he will continue in his capacity as senior judicial advisor for another 3-year term. Justice Massengale, I don't see you on my screen, but I think there you are.
Yeah.
I think you're here, and please let us know where you are now. And thank you. Justice Massengale was not a child welfare attorney, but he came in and took off running, and we so appreciate you. Where are you now, Justice Massengale?
Well, like most of you, I'm physically in my home, and after 6 months learning how to be productive here, it's been an interesting challenge, but it's great to see so many people. Professionally, I've been doing a lot of different things. I've been continuing to sit in a visiting capacity as an appellate judge. That's given me a great opportunity to get to know some of the judges around the state better. I've been working a lot with El Paso and the judges on the Court of Appeals there, but also with Fort Worth and some of the other courts. But my main occupation now is ADR, and I'm doing arbitrations, which is familiar because it's like being a judge. But the part that's new to me and exciting is learning how to be a mediator, and particularly learning about all the psychology behind helping people bridge their differences and align their interests to resolve a dispute in a way that is best for everybody. And it's a set of skills that I wish I had been prompted to get more of as a judge. And it's really opened my mind to a lot of new ideas, and maybe there will be some ways that I can bring some of that new knowledge to some of our training and other challenges that we're facing on the Children's Commission. But as I always tell Milbury, and I want Jamie to know as well, always happy to help the important work of this commission any way I can. I just have learned so much from everybody who's involved with it. And I've seen firsthand how important this work is, and I will always answer the call to help in any way I can. So thanks, Justice Guzman. I'm privileged to continue to serve.
Thank you very much, Justice Massengale. And I think your last point is an excellent point. We're always working with our judges to examine, explore ways in which we can better serve our communities, especially our communities of color, broadening that understanding. And that brings me to my next announcement. And this summer, as conversations were taking place around the country, Jamie Bernstein, whom I will talk about more in just a bit, and I had a conversation about whether we as a commission were doing enough to understand the diversity, inclusion, race, equity, how we serve our children, our families of color. And one of the things as chair, since I became chair, is that I don't make decisions for the commission in a silo, because our model is this collaborative effort. And so I said to Jamie, I think this is an idea that we need to explore. So Jamie and I went to many of you and said, what do you think about this? Is this something that we should be doing? And so after those conversations, I went to Chief Justice Hagt and I said, Chief Justice Hagt, what do you think about this? And he was so supportive and the court is so supportive. So I'm excited to announce that Sheila Craig will serve the Children's Commission in a new capacity, and that's as an equity advisor. In this role, Sheila will continue the Children's Commission work addressing race equity and advise us on how to bring an equity lens to everything that we do to strengthen the child welfare system. We've always examined this, but now we have someone in a role dedicated to help us have these critical conversations. And we're grateful because Sheila is the perfect person. She brings wisdom, experience, and she's going to help us maintain our focus on fairness and justice, but also help us address it in a way that is responsive to what's going on in communities of color around us, not only in Texas, but all around the country. Sheila's not with us this morning, but next meeting, we will begin to have this conversation amongst all of us. What can we do better? How can we ensure that every voice is being heard in our meetings and in our courtrooms and by our leaders? So I'm super excited about that. And thank you, Sheila, for agreeing to take on that role. Now on committee membership changes still on tab 1. Pam Kemp retired from DFPS and will no longer serve on the training committee. We are grateful to Ms. Kemp for her many years of service to the Children's Commission, DFPS, and the state of Texas. Thank you, Ms. Kemp. Judge Robin Sage is a former jurist in residence at the Children's Commission and currently works on the judicial engagement team at Casey Family Programs. Judge Sage is a force, and we are just so lucky as a state and as a commission to have her continued participation. Judge Sage, I don't know what's wrong with me this morning. Judge Sage will join our Systems Improvement Committee. All right. Judge Angela Graves Harrington is a district judge in Harris County and will join our training committee. Judge Graves Harrington served as a panelist on our judicial webcast in early June about the silver linings of Zoom hearings. And there is a silver lining. We see a path forward for communities where there aren't a lot of attorneys and you can't get an attorney to come in and represent those Texans. So there are a lot of possibilities with Zoom. It's something that the Office of Court Administration under David Slayton continues to study. It's something that we as a commission should continue to look at as a resource for our child welfare courts. So thank you, Judge Graves Harrington, for agreeing to serve and helping us move forward in this capacity. Welcome. I'm not sure if you're on at the meeting today. Let's see. Yep. No, I don't see them, but if you see them, thank them for agreeing to do this. Still under tab 1, Collaborative Council member changes. Dr. Jill McLay has joined as a new member of the Collaborative Council. Dr. McLay is the Director of Research, Policy, and Advocacy at the Children's Health. Dr. McLay has been a long-term partner in our trauma initiatives, and we welcome her input as a Collaborative Council member as well. Welcome, and thank you so much. I know you're super busy and have a lot on your plate, so we just appreciate you accepting our invitation. We also welcome Fedora Galasso as a new member of the Collaborative Council. She is the new Executive Director of the Texas Network of Youth Services, known as TNOYS. And we look forward to working with you. Welcome, and thank you so much. I know you all are not on the screen, but are on our participating by phone. Collaborative Council members were asked to submit written updates or request to speak in advance. During that section of the agenda, those members who requested to speak will be called upon to give updates. We look forward to your updates every meeting, and so we look forward to hearing from you later today. And now, staff member changes. I know you're aware we've had some big changes at the Children's Commission. And I'm going to begin with the announcement that Tina Amberboy, who led the Children's Commission with distinction for 13 years, has transitioned to her new job as Chief Executive Officer of Pathways Youth and Family Services. Personally, and I know the court as well, we're forever indebted to Tina for her dedication to the Children's Commission, to the state of Texas. Tina, there was never a day or a time when Tina was not going above and beyond anything that might have been expected of a leader to serve the court, to serve the children. She created a really strong foundation for the court improvement program and developed Texas as a national model. She is someone I know we all admire, and someone we aspire to be more like, selfless, innovative, visionary. We were just so fortunate to have her for 13 years. We really were, and we really wish her the very best in her new role. I hope that in the future she will join us and continue to work with us. COVID has prevented us from having a formal reception, but to celebrate her accomplishments in a way that it pays tribute to all that she's done. But we hope to be able to do something in February of 2021 and to do something in person. But with Tina's departure, we had an opportunity to elevate someone who is in her own right one of the brightest, most talented, most dedicated leaders I've ever worked with. From the time I met Jamie, and I was blown away by not only by her abilities as a lawyer, but by her capacity to really listen, to understand. She has the heart of a servant. She knows what it means to lead. She knows what it means to collaborate. She knows what it means to serve as an example and to know that you are about more than just this role. You really are setting the vision for our state, and you will leave a legacy as powerful and as impactful as Tina's. I know she's assumed the role of executive director after 6 years at the commission, and the last 2 years she served as assistant director. Jamie, we welcome you in this new capacity. We are just so happy to have you. Can everyone give Jamie a virtual welcome?
Thank you. I'm so humbled by your words. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. We will hear from you, I know, later in the meeting, but we just appreciate you. Oh, look, someone's using the chat feature. Great. Thanks, Jamie. Okay. A few more commission member staff changes. Milbury Rainey is now the assistant director after serving as training director and staff attorney before that. Milbury, you know this. I mean, I'm saying this, and I know we need to move on, but the Children's Commission staff is the best in the country. I can't tell you how many times people come to me or to Chief Justice Hecht and talk about how wonderful the Children's Commission staff is. I say it all the time. They all go above and beyond. Milbury does too. What she did for training was just an exemplary effort to bring us into a place where we'd never been before as far as training. She's done all sorts of other work for the commission. Milbury, we're really happy to have you in this new capacity. We're excited. We know you bring a wealth of knowledge, dedication, and experience, and above and beyond commitment to the children of our state.
Thank you so much, Justice.
Thank you. And now Dylan Mant, he is serving as the Commission's Legal Representation Director, and he continues to be a state and national expert on issues related to legal representation in the child welfare system. Dylan, we've all been just super impressed by your work and your leadership, and you know, like everyone else on the Children's Commission, you'll never hear Dylan talking about himself or bringing attention to himself, but his work speaks for the leader that he is, and for the strength that he brings to our team. So thank you, Dylan. And I don't see you. Oh, there you are. You're in the corner. Thank you very much. We look forward to working with you in this new capacity.
Thank you, Justice Guzman. Working for the commission has always been a privilege and remains to be so.
Thank you. And then I'm excited to welcome Amy Corbin as the staff attorney at the Children's Commission. Amy is a former CPS caseworker and prosecutor in Hays County. Amy, we searched extensively for the perfect person to serve in this role. Your background, your experience. We're super excited to have you on board. You're going to work with a wonderful team, and if you'll just take a brief minute to introduce yourself to our commission members.
Thank you. I am so excited to get to be a part of this team. As Justice Guzman said, I am the new staff attorney, and I'm excited to be working on education, prevention, human trafficking. I hope my background and experience will lead me in this new direction. I'm really excited and looking forward to getting to know and work along with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you very much. Okay, and now we tab 2. The minutes from the February 21st, 2020 meeting were distributed in the May 22nd, 2020 meeting notebook, but the commission has not yet voted to adopt them. We will assemble votes verbally. So I think somebody has to make a motion.
I move approval. This is Darlene Byrne.
Thank you, Judge Byrne.
Second. Whoops.
All right, and second by Judge Frank Rind. All in favor? Just go like this.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so if we have no one with thumbs down, that if you're opposed, that would be a good way to do that. And so the minutes are adopted. And so at this point, we're going to turn to commissioner updates. And that's going to be followed by a report from Jamie and the staff to review. We are very fortunate at the Children's Commission to have a tremendous vice chair in Judge Piper McCraw, the Collin County. And Judge McCraw is a leader in her community, a leader in the state. And I've asked Judge McCraw to lead this portion of the meeting for us. I think it's important that we all have, an opportunity to lead. And so Judge McCraw, I am going to turn over the program to you while we go through the commissioner updates, and please share profoundly and broadly. We really want to hear everything about, not everything, but we want to hear a report about what's been going on in your communities. Thank you all. I'm gonna mute my mic.
Thank you, Justice Guzman, and thank you to everyone being here this morning. So as Justice Guzman indicated, we're going to go through and take commissioner updates. So if you can give us information about what's going on within your region or within your practice area, and we're going to try to limit a little bit just to make sure we have time to hear from everyone. But if anyone has any questions while we're going through these, if you'll use that raise hand feature, then we can make sure we call on you if you have any questions or comments to add in. So I think the best way to do this might be going alphabetical order, if y'all don't mind. So if we could start out, I know Judge Rosie Alvarado, I believe you gave a little bit of an update, but if you have any more that you'd like to share, we'd love to hear about how things are going on or how things are going in your area.
Okay. Well, I think probably generally everybody knows that Judge Sakai, former commissioner, had the children's court in Bexar County. And under the umbrella of Children's Court, we have a whole litany of wonderful programs. Just this past year, we've added the Eagles Court program, which I gave you a little bit of a precursor on, as well as we are looking to add a domestic violence program that not only deals with domestic violence cases, but also in the context of CPS cases as well. And so that's actually in the works, and we're projecting a 2021 launch on that as well. Just to circle back to the Pearls program, I'd like to give some statistics on what we're doing right now, and perhaps maybe give just also a little bit more background on our program. So to give you some context, our program is kind of a comprehensive program, and it services issues concerning trauma, life skills training. We do mentorship and strengthening of relationships. We deal with mental health treatment, again, domestic violence prevention, teen pregnancy prevention, substance abuse prevention, and then we also do resiliency and self-esteem building. And we do that in the context of like a three-pronged program that deals with therapeutic group counseling that we offer our girls. We do one-to-one mentorship pairing, and those mentors have been trained in trauma-informed mentoring. And then we do a program that's resiliency training through life skills. Our population that we deal with is ages 14 to 18, and again, they are current PMC cases. We meet twice a month. Pre-pandemic, we were meeting bi-weekly at the courthouse after hours between 5:30 and 7:30. And at that time, we would have our skills training lessons, our group therapy. We would have our mentors there. We would have a big meal that was provided, usually a pot lunch, so everybody could break bread and develop those relationships with a trusted mentor. And then also kind of help crack the shell on those girls. So it's a really beautiful program. We offer them to have days of opportunity. We go out to college visits, and we do leadership conferences and annual career festivals. We also do service days where we teach them to give back to the community. One of our favorite ones was Blueprint Ministries, where they actually learned how to install a floor. A lot of the girls really like that. And then of course we have our court component where we do our permanency hearings and oversee them there. So just to kind of give you some context of our outcomes. So this past year, girls that were supposed to be, our girls advancing to the next grade level, 88% of our girls advanced to the next grade level. 92% of our girls postponed motherhood. We have 72% of those that graduated from high school are on track and heading to college. And then we had actually 100% graduation rate. We had also 92% of our girls did complete the Pearls programming year. So those are really good statistics. We also afford care to our girls aftercare. And so of our girls in aftercare, 100% have postponed motherhood, and 50% of those girls are going to college as well. So those are some really great statistics for us. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to showing you all what the model is that we're using and teaching other jurisdictions about it, because we're having some wonderful outcomes, and we're really proud of our program, but most importantly, we're really proud of these young women that are coming out and are able to stand on their own 2 feet and not be the statistics that we're used to seeing.
Thank you very much, Judge. Did anybody have any questions or comments to add? All right. I don't think I see anything here, so we'll keep moving. I appreciate that update, though. And we'll move on to Colonel Sonia Batchelor. Is she not here? Okay. All right. We'll keep going then. And on to Corey Benbow.
Thank you. I don't have any updates.
No updates? Okay. All right. Thank you. And Paula Bibb Samuel, I know we always love hearing from you.
Well, thank you. See, this is what I get to do when I get a Zoom meeting. I get to dress up and put on makeup. How are y'all doing?
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and I'm gonna be fairly quick. Just so you all know that all the parents in the different regions, we are still holding our monthly PSGs, which are parent support groups, and we're doing them via Zoom or another form of video conferencing. That has proven to be successful for us because we still obviously can't meet together as we normally would, but we are doing that monthly. On the statewide PCG, right now they have done like a Survey Monkey because CPS has sought out input from different parents on training topics for caseworkers. So questions were developed actually by the parents, by us, with lived experience that were important to them, because what we find is that you all are great. I say you all, CPS is great at training their workers on how to do the job. However, sometimes the personal piece is missed. And so, or the human piece is missed. And so we kind of created some questions and things that we wanted them to be trained on, how to treat us like human beings that have made mistakes, like the dung of the earth. And how important it was to us based on our experiences. And then they've also provided a place for the parents to give other input on different topics that we feel that they need to be trained on. Everything that we submit is anonymous, just in case, we don't want y'all looking at us crazy. But they are actually really trying to use that information to help them with training. And we think it's going to go a long way because we know that the job that all CPS caseworkers do, all avenues of it, is difficult. And sometimes it's better just to think of a case as a case. But when you do that, you lose that human aspect of it. And so then you start looking at people as pieces of paper or case numbers, and that devalues who we are. Also, our statewide PCG advisory committee meeting, they continue to meet with the Goal 2 meetings. That's how they meet, obviously virtually, but they are still meeting, and they meet quarterly, just so you know. And then, no, that's not last. The parent specialist and I, which is Deshawn Elms, she's the parent specialist. She and I will be attending a Casey Race Equity convening in October, which, by the way, thanks to the Children's Commission, the individual, she went to a Children's Commission meeting. She heard what we're doing, and she reached out to Deshawn, who reached out to me because she had heard me speak at one of those meetings. And so I want to thank you all for the opportunities that continue to come for parents like me and me to go and talk to the community in different areas and let them know kind of what's going on, what could be changed, and just to be a true, combined effort in making change for the entire state of Texas. Okay, as you all know, everything we do now is like Zoom, and I hate Zoom, but I love Zoom. But on the 29th of July, I attended the Birth Parent National Network Elevating the Impact of COVID on Parents Involved in Child Welfare conference. I call it a conference meeting. It was roughly an hour. I continued to log on to their caring conversations that they have every Monday. And then they also had the birth and foster parent virtual convening, which was a 3-day event. And it was August 17th, August 25th, and August 26th. And I did attend that, and I hope I represented Texas well. I think I did. But we get a lot of information in those convenings about what other states are doing, how other states are making changes, and really trying to make sure that birth parents and foster parents are connected and not enemies, because it's always better to have a support versus someone that you're fighting against. And so I was able to attend that, and there are several others that I continue to attend and will continue to attend. And I know Justice Guzman talked about Milbury earlier, and I just wanted to say she is amazing, because there are times that I don't know things that are going on, and she will send me an email and let me know that certain things that are going on and allow me the opportunity to register for those convenings or meetings or what conferences, whatever they're having. And then I can gain valuable information and give back to the other parents that are a part of the parent collaboration group, the statewide group, as well as use that information locally, because with the last one, I'm able now to get information on how to approach different leaders within our community, especially in Lubbock County. I know how to talk to judges because y'all don't scare me. Thank you, by the way. But there are other people, that we need to connect with. And, because one judge is not going to be able to change Lubbock County. It's going to be that connection with some of the attorneys, with some of the parents, and with other organizations. And so they have given me input and direction on how to do that so that we can start seeing some valuable change within Texas, but first, obviously, within Lubbock, because those are the people I have relationship with. So that's my report. Thank you.
And thank you very much. Did anybody have any questions or comments? All right, I don't see anything. We'll keep moving then. I don't believe Dr. Blau is here, so we'll keep moving to Judge Susan Brown. And Judge Brown, I believe you're on.
I am. Good morning. I have a very short report, but I sort of wanted to present from the presiding judge perspective, and also having some judges who handle the children's courts in my region. And I have to say that in looking at all of the data around the state, the judges who are handling children's courts have stepped up amazingly, probably better than a lot of the judges just on the district and county court benches who handle various and sundry dockets. They immediately jumped onto Zoom, and in talking to a number of them, what I've heard is that they are getting more participation from all of the parties involved, from the parents. Those parents who couldn't come to court are now able to Zoom. They're learning a lot more. They're able to identify issues with parents who they've not seen before. So as much as everybody has Zoom fatigue, in this particular area, I think that it has really caused a great change, and a lot of folks have stepped up. CPS is doing a great job. I just think that we're seeing a really big positive change statewide, that just in participation and just in general handling of dockets. Also, the presiding judges are looking into, my cat is about to get on the screen. That this is what happens with Zoom. Presiding judges are looking into asking the legislature for more CPC courts as we move into the next session. Whether there'll be any money for that, who knows? But I know I could certainly use at least 2 more in my region. And the last thing that I wanted to report from my region, which is the 11th region, is that we are now going into Matagorda County to open a court there. So that means that out of my 6 counties in the 11th region, 5 of those will all have children's courts. And I actually have 2 in Harris County. So a lot of positive forward movement in that regard. That's it.
Great, thank you for that update. And anyone have any questions, comments?
Do you want to meet my cat? No.
That is what I have enjoyed by Zoom. I've gotten to see all the attorneys' dogs and cats, and mine's barked through a few hearings. So.
Yes. Oh.
All right. Thank you very much, Judge Brown. And we will move on to Judge Darlene Byrne, and I'm sure you have some great updates.
Thank you very much, Judge McGraw. And I will attest and confirm what Judge Brown just mentioned about participation. Yesterday, I had a contested hearing with a guy in a hard hat at a construction site testifying, as well as lots of folks in their cars, and get tours of people's homes and babies' rooms and those kind of things. So it's there are some silver linings in that regard, and a lot better participation. I'm going to share with you 3 events, and then just kind of a little bit about what happened this morning. So next week, September 23rd, from noon to 1 o'clock, the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges will have a Zoominar webinar for an hour entitled Oversight and Collaboration During COVID-19 Pandemic. Judge Martinez-Jones and I will be the speakers for that presentation, and would love it if any of you could come. Again, noon to 1 o'clock on September 23rd. Additionally, on September 28th, a couple of weeks from now, another judge and I have been working with Casey Family Programs from noon to 1 o'clock we will have a press briefing on the impact of COVID on child welfare courts to educate the public on what the courts are doing to keep families engaged and the like. And Casey has written a big article about that issue, and that will also be rolling out in and around the same time as the press briefing. And then I may still, Jocelyn's Thunder, I don't know whether I have, I'm sure it's in the notebook, but the statewide collaborative on trauma-informed care that is a part of this commission has identified the dates for our Judicial Trauma Institute. And that is, as you know, we were going to do that this last year, and we were going to have a wonderful Beyond the Bench kind of in-person panel, and then COVID happened. But now we will have 2 days, February 17 and 18 of next year will be the Judicial Trauma Institute. And the silver lining, yes, it will be virtual, but we were only going to be able to serve like 12 courts in the live version, and now it's going to be able to be a lot more, broadly available. So that's exciting, I think. And then, as you might imagine, many of you know that I am stepping down from the trial court bench December 30th of this year. And so there are a lot of goodbyes on my docket. And this morning, prior to this docket, I'm actually running a 30-case docket while I'm participating today electronically in the background. So I've been ruling on things as we've been sitting here today. But, one of my kids that, I've been working with for several years, he's in the permanent managing conservatorship of the state. 16 last year, 4 schools, amazing person. And he didn't have anything no conflicts, everything's good, but he wanted to say goodbye this morning. And so I had the privilege of visiting with him and his caseworker and his CASA this morning. And he's turning 17 next week, and we threw up, my balloon background so that we could, celebrate with him and sing very badly, happy birthday. But, I think about these young kids, and this kid has just not had a lot given to him in his life. And yet he's in the 11th grade. He's doing his driving hours. He's behind the wheel. So if you're in Austin, you might want to watch out, especially in Northeast Austin. He's his own medical consenter. He got accepted in a transitional living placement that is really hard to get in. He's going to get a job for a food truck to make grilled cheese. And he just wanted to talk to me and say goodbye. And so I just want to highlight judges. We get the privilege of one life at a time. Sometimes it all seems so daunting, but the one life at a time impact, the positive impact and the connection you make is just so invaluable. And so I'm honored to be among you all, and thank you for everything you do for children and families here in Texas. That's my report.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you do. Anyone have? Yes.
Judge Byrne, can you repeat the training on the 28th, September 28th?
Yes, ma'am. The one on, that is not a training. That is going to be a press briefing put on by Casey Family Programs. It's going to be from noon to 1 o'clock, and it is going to coincide with a publication that Casey has on the impact of COVID and child welfare courts, and how we are rising to the occasion and continuing to seek permanency for children and families, even during this pandemic.
Super. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have any questions or comments? All right. All right. Then we will keep moving on to Judge Coley. And any updates?
Well, I unfortunately have to follow you, Judge Byrne. After that update, I would be remiss in following you and not saying that I can't tell you enough how much your work has meant to all of us and the role model you've been for judges across the state. So I know it's not easy for you to wind everything down the way you're doing it. So we'll be thinking about you. My updates, a couple of things for the commission. Judge Lisa Jarrett out of Bexar County and I co-chaired the dual status task force. And we last met via Zoom on Friday, July the 31st, and had a great meeting. It was really productive, and we heard about the work from the 5 work groups under the task force, judicial practices, legal representation and advocacy, the training work group, agency coordination, and data and information sharing. We've had I think a productive run with that task force, and we've set our final meeting for the task force on Friday, December the 4th of this year. And in conjunction with that, we have the dual status pilot program, which has been approved. It was approved by the regional presiding judges at their last meeting, and it's going to involve a few of the child protection courts in the state. And we are expecting that dual status pilot to roll out in the fall of this year. And so we're looking forward to being able to work with those courts and see that work and use those pilot programs to spread this around the state going forward. And in regard to, we had a restraint shackling discussion group. It's not formally a work group, I don't believe, but we had a meeting set for that group back in the spring, and we're disappointed that it fell at a time that we really had to push it off without any options. And so we had that via Zoom in August of this year, August the 6th, had outstanding participation, had well over 50 folks participate in that discussion group, and had some lively conversation that we feel was lively enough that I think the commission is still compiling the notes and the feedback, but we've made some significant strides, I think, on establishing what's going to be a baseline for this arena in Texas. I think one of the things that we all understand is that everyone's trying to figure out where we're going to end up after all the COVID, I guess, consequences have settled in, and we've got some understanding of how Zoom is going to impact work in that area and how we're going to adapt as courts statewide in light of those things. But as the juvenile courts continue to settle in on the results of those impacts, we're hopefully going to be able to incorporate those recommendations into the new normal that's going into 2021 and going forward after that. And in regard to just some personal work and some local things, in regard to human trafficking, our coalition, the Heart of Texas Human Trafficking Coalition, met in July of this year by Zoom, had a local panel with some 3 local officials talk about their work in this area. And also we're working towards having a public service announcement that's going to air regarding identifying human trafficking and assisting folks in being able to see the signs of human trafficking in their everyday lives. And also I'm on a judicial work group for Crossover Youth for NCJ, FCJ. We've met a couple of times this summer in June and in July, and working on some recommendations for Crossover Youth in courts around the country. So that completes my update. And Judge McCraw, if there are no questions, I'll kick it back to you.
Thank you very much. Great updates. Anybody have any questions or comments? All right, I don't see anyone yet. All right, we will keep moving then. And Justice Julie Countess, if you have any updates, we'd love to hear from you.
I'll be very brief. Good morning, and thank you, Judge McCraw and Justice Guzman. Just want to say real quickly, building on what the judges before me were talking about, it's very obvious that the trial court judges in my region who work on child protection dockets are continuing to be extremely efficient and flexible, and still continuing to deliver, high quality, timely results, because in spite of what all has been going on the past 8 months and the potential for delays, we haven't seen any sort of problems or issues on the appellate level with with timelines or with being unable to meet the statutory deadlines, which are much, shorter than a normal appeal. And so for what that's worth, it's just, further evidence that work is getting done and getting done, really well and properly, which means that hopefully, children are getting good results and families are getting good results. So I'm very impressed because we do also hear appeals from all other types of courts in our region. And I get a lot more requests for extensions and reasons for delays that are sort of, COVID related. Not that they aren't, genuine, but I get a lot more of those from other types of I guess, cases and lawyers as opposed to from anything related to child protection. So super impressive. And the second thing is just that I'm co-chairing a conference next spring that's called the Civil Bench Bar Conference. It's an annual conference we have in Houston, and most of you have them, I'm sure, in your regions, and it's opportunities for judges in the bar in our area to interact, get CLE credit, and really be in close contact for a full day and just sort of encourage positive relations. And so I invited all of the, I guess family court judges is what you would refer to them, because they're all in Harris County. It's all of our family court judges only do that work. We don't have general jurisdiction judges like some of you do. But anyway, I invited all of our judges in that area to serve on the committee with me, so that we could just further, their involvement in the local bar. That the family court judges sometimes are, get kind of put into they're in a different category, so to speak. It's a whole different practice area compared to just the rest of your civil trial work and your criminal trial work. And I don't know that they always get as many opportunities to mix with the whole bar, and plus the fact that their dockets are crazy busy, and most of them just honestly don't have time. So I'm hoping that that'll be a good way to continue to foster professional growth and positive relations and so forth here in the Houston region. And then lastly, I just want to say that I'm super proud. My stepdaughter, who graduated from Texas State in May, just accepted a position as a investigation specialist with the Department of Family and Protective Services. I'm totally getting emotional about that. And I'm so proud of her. So I'm excited. I'm excited that she's going to be in a world that will allow her to work with folks like you all and like the folks that you work with. And I can tell you that you're getting a really good one in her. So anyway, thanks.
Wow, that's amazing. Wonderful. Congratulations. And anyone have any comments or questions? All right. Thank you, Justice Countess. And we will keep going. Deneen Dryden, I know we heard from you a little bit earlier. Just want to see if you had any additional updates you'd like to provide about things going on in your area.
Yes, I had no idea when I accepted this position that I would be coming on board during a pandemic. And like all of you, we have had to change some of our practices as COVID-19 has hit DFPS in the state. When it came to virtual face-to-face contacts, it has definitely allowed us to engage the children, families, and ensure safety when we couldn't do that face-to-face. Of course, if there was ever an issue with safety, we made sure we kept the face-to-face contact going. What we found, and what some of you have alluded to, is with the parent-child visits, that there really was something gained by having this virtual contact with the foster parent and the parent of the child, and that there were more engaging, that they both felt like it was a positive experience. And so as lessons learned, we're hoping to gain some new knowledge and to hopefully have that be an added piece that continues. And now they're back to face, but we want to continue to encourage that kind of connection virtually. And what we know is, and you've alluded to this as well, is I've been on national calls with child welfare leaders and state child welfare systems, that you guys with the courts and your technology, and I know some of that, the Children's Commission was definitely instrumental in getting that technology to the courts, but you're leading the nation And we heard other states want to have contact with you and to see how, because many of you were already in place before COVID hit. So we're very grateful for that. And it's great to know that even during this time where the world seemed to stop, that you guys wouldn't let a pandemic stop an adoption or what needed to happen. And so that's awesome. There's a couple other areas I'd like to highlight. Statewide intake. The program ended fiscal year 2020 with an average hold time of 4.6 minutes. And this is far below the Legislative Budget Board target of 9 minutes. We also, September 10th, rolled out our Concurrent Stages project. This is where family-based safety services staff will work alongside with CPI investigators. They'll provide services to families while simultaneously completing the investigations. And that's what's new. We will estimate that families are going to get services at least minimum 6 weeks sooner now that we're doing these together concurrently. And in the past, the CPI had to actually close out their case before SBSS could take over. So we're excited about that. We know that engaging families earlier in the process allows us to assess, evaluate that family's strengths and needs, and it'll provide those relevant, expedient support to the families. And you and I know at that crucial time of when that crisis hits. We have on our DFPS public website our Family First Preservation Service Act, which is FFPSA. This FFPSA strategic plan proposes options for our legislative consideration. We will also very soon be having a webinar up there for those of you who like to read and get into the weeds that different agencies can get on and look at and see that. The foster care litigation was held September 3rd and 4th, and DFPS and HHSC are awaiting the court's orders. However, we are taking proactive steps and we are continuing in our compliance efforts in that arena. On June 1st, our SSCC, Single Source Continuum Contractor, to engage a partnership between TFI and New Horizons, began stage 2. This is the community-based care case management, the kinship, the reunification services. And this is in Region 2, a 30 county area. It includes Abilene, Wichita Falls. This was all done in the pandemic and it was done virtually. And so we are glad to see that that is a success. Also on the CBC front, there is an open procurement in Region 8B, the counties that are surrounding Bexar County. They're in San Antonio. We and CPS continue to make progress on our CFSR, the Texas Child and Family Services Review Program Improvement Plan. Texas asked for the 6-month extension, and that is just to ensure that we can make sure everything gets done with the pandemic amongst us. I want to say that I am fully committed to supporting and participating in the work of the Children's Commission on Statewide Trauma-Informed Care Collaborative. I'm very excited about that. I believe that this work will, as we make these partnerships, impact the trauma that our kids have and our families, and even go beyond to the extended family. And it's great work and I'm excited about it. I look forward to getting to meet some of you face to face very soon. And I really do appreciate the partnership that you each extend with DFPS.
Thank you very much. That was very helpful, and welcome to the commission. I think we're all very thrilled to have you. This was great updates. Did anyone have any questions or comments? Nothing. All right, I don't see anything. All right, and again, thank you. That was very helpful. And I will continue moving on then to Elizabeth Farley. Do you have any updates you can provide or like share?
Hi, thank y'all, and good morning. I know it's been a while since we've all connected, so it's good to see everyone again. And now I have the privilege of following Deneen and her wonderful update. And so I just wanted to say that we are super excited about Deneen being here, and just that update she gave was super informative. She's clearly hit the ground running, so we're excited to work with her. A lot of my work recently in the governor's office has centered around COVID. And so that has kind of taken over our office a little bit. And now, of course, we are looking towards session. And so kind of thinking through a lot of the items that we've talked about already this morning about how the impacts of COVID can be translated into something good. And I know we've heard a lot about how Zoom and these virtual interfaces have actually helped engagement in some ways. And so thinking about how, if there's any statutory changes that need to be made in order to make these types of interactions easier, and break down any sort of barriers that we see as far as telemedicine, and things like that. So that's been a lot of my work with the department right now, is just how do we make this into something that's workable as we go forward, and then hopefully once we're out of this pandemic, can take some of these lessons learned and use them. And then that's pretty much it. I know there's been movement with the lawsuit as well, and so we're following that very closely, obviously, and working with the department on changes to make sure that we're in compliance with that piece as well. And so those are probably the two biggest DFPS items at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you. And did anyone have any questions for Elizabeth? All right. All right, we'll keep moving on then to Anne Heilgenstein. Sorry about that.
No, that's a very good rendition. Thank you. Thanks, Judge. Just a couple of items. When COVID struck, Casey began a nationwide collaborative for child welfare leaders. Deneen and her team participated in that. We gathered weekly and then bi-weekly. First, we were helping jurisdictions share information about how to address the immediate needs, the urgent needs and emerging needs of COVID and how to respond best. More recently, the collaborative, of which several hundred state leaders participate, have been really focusing on lessons learned. What can we take forward from the COVID experience, and some of the practices that we should keep? I have to say the outstanding lesson learned is virtual court hearings. And I have to resonate what Deneen said. Texas has led the nation. Casey has a panoramic view of the nation, and you all have been in the leadership role. I can tell you a couple of weeks ago, I heard from LA County, California, huge child welfare system. They have a backlog of 10,000 CPS cases because they did not do what Texas did early on. And so I have to congratulate the entire judicial community in Texas for what it has done. We're also working with other organizations in terms of telehealth as another perhaps lesson learned in how to move forward there. I want to thank Judge Byrne for participating in the Casey report. We really appreciate your doing that, as well as we appreciate your long-term leadership for meeting the needs of children and families. So thank you for that as well. I'll share the report. I'll send it to Jamie, who can then, I'm sure, distribute it to you. The other thing I wanted to comment on was race equity, and I'm really pleased to hear about Sheila coming on board and the court's focus on equity, race equity. I think that's excellent. Casey is very focused on that as well. Paula mentioned a collaborative meeting that we're having with 15 states the end of October. And I'm thrilled that Paula will be participating in that. Unfortunately, what I really regret is that it will occur on the same day as your annual judicial conference, which I know is a conflict that can't be avoided, unfortunately. But we're glad Paula will participate in that. And we also, I also want to resonate that, we will work, Casey would be thrilled to work with the commission in helping to support your race equity work in ways that you see fit would be most helpful. So thank you. And I really appreciate the opportunity to address other commission members.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Just a comment.
Oh, go ahead. Yes, Ms. Briggs.
I just wanted to note that and give appreciation to the commission, because the initiative to allow judges to bring people in virtually started a few years ago. And by having laid that groundwork, Texas was able to easily transition and rise to this occasion when the pandemic hit. So I just want to acknowledge the commission for their foresight. And that's really all I want to say, just to tag on to what Ann was saying as far as Texas being ahead of the rest of the nation.
Thank you.
Judge McCraw, I just wanted to piggyback on that to give profound thanks to OCA and David Slayton, because they're really behind all that technology and making sure we had life size and now Zoom. And to say thank you to Ann for your offer to support the race equity work, and we'll take you up on that, and I'll contact you offline.
Great.
And I'm sorry, I would like, this is Paula, just wanted to also kind of resound that same thing about how Texas is leading the curve. As we talk to people around the nation, what I found out in Texas is that we haven't stopped doing anything in regards to children and families, whereas a lot of courts actually kind of had to figure out what to do as soon as COVID hit. Texas was prepared. And so a lot of families have been able to continue the process of having like a child welfare case, which is great for us because we know it didn't stop anything. So thank you all. Kudos to any and everybody that had anything to do with that.
Yes, and thank you to the state for providing the resources. I think that was critical, especially with having gone to the e-file a few years earlier. It made things much smoother as well. So, all right, we'll keep moving forward then. And let's see, Judge Randall Huffstetler, any updates you would like to provide? Let's see. All right.
You're still on mute, Judge.
There we go. All right. Some of you act like you're surprised that Texas is leading the nation in some of these things. I'm not, having been here all my life. It's not surprising at all, but I am proud that we are being recognized for a lot of those things. 3 points I wanted to make in my update. COVID really crashed a lot of things that we were going to be trying to implement, but we kind of worked around it. And I heard an old saying long time ago, sometimes there are stumps in the field. There are those stumps that you remove, and there are those stumps that you plow around. COVID has been one of those that we have just plowed around. And with the Zoom meetings, we're going to be having implemented a lot of things as a result of COVID. We're going to be maintaining those after COVID disappears, because we have found, as many of you have already said, there's a lot more participation when you enable people to appear by Zoom. We had a gentleman appear from Minnesota the other day, and our Zoom hearings have been well participated in by those who cannot be here or those who are working. And the other thing that is just a byproduct of that is we've had fewer resets because of people being out of town and working and things of that sort. So we've worked around that. I finished a trial yesterday, as a matter of fact, and half of the participants were participating by Zoom. And I'm going to keep that. We're not going to stop that once COVID is gone, because it does allow for much greater participation. So we're going to keep that. And then we found that that works in a lot of the other family law matters aside from CPS. One of the things that we implemented several years ago in Brazoria County was a training of our CPS workers. One of the things that I decided is that folks need to know the difference between the family code, which is what the judiciary looks to as our guide, maybe not versus, but how it relates to the DFPS policy manual. And so what I decided to do was to get involved in the training. Our district attorney's office put together a training program for all of our caseworkers, investigators, and I participated in that. And my role was to basically roll out, what does the family code say that you need to do, and how do I expect you to implement that? And having implemented that training program probably 8 years ago, we're really beginning to see some dividends paid back on that training with regard to our folks. Now, what we're not doing is teaching these folks how to come in and testify. That's not our goal. That's not our role, because we can't choose sides. But in an effort to educate those folks, what does it mean to make a reasonable effort to find other placement for this child right at the beginning? What all is involved in that? Is that just a question you ask a parent one time and only one time? No. And we go through all of that, and we're really starting to see a lot of dividends paid back into these cases, because these folks are really understanding. They have DFPS manuals and all the things that they're trained, and now they can bring that and look at the family code and really understand how we're going to be ruling on these cases based upon what the family code tells us. And yesterday, finishing a trial was another reminder that these training sessions are really beginning to pay back. The last thing is services. One of the things that we always look at is whether or not an individual parent has complied with the service plan. And under O grounds in the Family Code 161, it's one of those things that we can terminate based upon their failure to abide by a court order providing for services. And one of the things that we have really worked hard in Brazoria County to do is to make sure people can get those services virtually. And so that O is not one of the grounds that is a primary reason for termination. We've just tried to make sure that people have available. If they don't have transportation, COVID has enabled us to set up some virtual services for them. So that's one of the things that we're certainly going to continue after COVID. But we found that a lot of folks can participate in services just like we're doing today on Zoom. And that enables them not to have to worry about transportation. A lot of these folks don't have transportation, and now everybody has a cell phone. I mean, I found that every person, 100% of the people that come in front of me have a smartphone. They may not have anything else, but they have a smartphone. And we can allow them to participate in a lot of these services virtually. And so that's one of the things that we've been working on, is making sure that people can participate and that it's not counted against them, whether they have the money to go or whether they have transportation to go. And COVID has actually been a great help in helping us to figure this out. So that's my report, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys.
Great, thank you, Judge Hufstetler, and I second that. I believe it's given a lot of people access to courts that they didn't have before. So anyone else have any comments or questions regarding Judge Hufstetler's report? All right. And next, I think we'll hear from Representative Stephanie Click. And there we go.
Good morning, everybody. Good to see you. Sorry about my dog. During the interim, we normally, excuse me, just we're normally having interim hearings right now, but due to COVID, we're not able to do that. But in many ways, it kind of feels like session because we're constantly on the phone and doing Zoom meetings, trying to help our constituents. So very busy time.
And anyone else, any questions for Representative Click? All right. And next up, we'll move on to Judge Selena Morales. She always has some great info for us.
Good morning to everyone. I wanted to agree with all the judges and all the individuals who have discussed how great Zoom has been for us. I've obviously also seen increased participation by the parents, and I also can hear several cases in several counties on the same day. I think that's excellent. I think that is a great use of time. So I'll go from one county's docket to another within the matter of minutes. And I think that has helped out a lot in judicially taking care of these cases in a judicial and expedited manner. So that has been very helpful. I agree with Judge Husletler, how helpful the Zoom has been in my court. I've allowed parents actually to virtually assist their children with homework. And the reason I've done that is to encourage the parents in helping this very difficult transition with virtual schooling. And so long as the caregivers are in agreement to supervise that contact, it has been something that's been very helpful to assist in allowing for these parents to continue the contact with the children and also to assist the caregivers in not having to perhaps spend so much of their time with the children's homework, since it is a very difficult process that we're all trying to maneuver. During my time from the last session to now, I've decided to, although I've received some TBRI training and our sessions and our CLEs that we've received, I decided to participate and complete, and I completed the Karen Purvis Institute of Child Development with TCU Trust-Based Relational Intervention, the TBRI training. It was a 4-week program, incorporated independent studies of several hours, as well as 4 Zoom live sessions of intensive training. We focused on the application and implementation of TBRI. I felt that this was a good time, even though I know we have a lot on our plate, but I thought this was a good time for me to go ahead and do that and complete that. I've also requested the possibility of 10 caseworkers from the conservatorship department to possibly also be accepted and receive this TBRI training as well. I've also was trained and now authorized to use the See It tool, the Commercial Sexual Exploitation Identification tool. I received that training. I felt the need, because of some of the cases that I have been presiding over, felt the need to identify victims and inform intervention and preventative strategies and treat these victims with trauma-informed responses that are protective and empowering. I started to notice some of the children in my court with possible sexual trafficking, sex trafficking identifiers. And so I wanted to make sure that I was well informed as what that would look like, what I need to do when I am able to identify those children, and what measures we can take. I also got in contact with a professor from a local university here in Laredo, from Texas A&M International University, and she teaches classes in some criminal justice, and she also writes books, has authored books about sexual trafficking, sex trafficking. So she and I discussed that the possibility of, once things go back to normal, hopefully, that we would go into the middle schools and educate the youth as to the dangers of sex trafficking through their social media and gaming. I've seen that a lot of these children are gaming and are participating in gaming with other individuals that perhaps they don't know who they are. And you never know who's behind that screen name. And so I was very concerned about that. And I was very concerned how our children, unfortunately, are not aware of the dangers and how easy it is for them to get involved in, God forbid, something like that. So that's what I've been working on my end. That's all I have.
Wow, great. Very helpful information. Did anyone have any questions for Judge Morales? All right, we'll move on to Kitty Else. I believe she's on here.
I'm here. Hi.
There we go. Perfect.
Hi.
Thank
Good
you.
morning. Happy Friday, everybody. I am honored to be on this commission representing the private community-based provider perspective, and I appreciate Representative Click's dog. And the grace of this group. I live in fear that every Zoom I'm on, my kids will just jump in my home office with Nerf guns. So thank you all for all the grace. For the past 6 months, we have been working to support community-based child and youth serving organizations with their COVID response all across the state. Certainly, there's been immediate needs, a lot of concrete services, and just help figuring out protocols for quarantining and policies and how to manage staffing and how to manage kids during this time. I've really appreciated working with DFPS and HHSC on policies and procedures, quickly being updated, and really what I just thank Commissioner Masters and Trevor, Deneen, and Sasha Roscoe for always being willing to listen to community-based providers and to work very closely with them to be able to make sure that we are not missing any beats with regard to serving kids in the child welfare system. I'm particularly proud that we've been able to bring in and raise over $2 million in private funding that we have pushed out the door to community-based organizations to help with their immediate needs, buying PPE, whatever it is, technology, Chromebooks, laptops, things so that kids can be Zooming in virtually for visits with their parents, their siblings, their caseworkers, their teachers. So very, very honored to be able to support community-based organizations with those funds and with some actual technology and what we're calling kits. So. Even through COVID, the need to continue to support capacity development and improving quality of care and services is ongoing. We've been offering virtual trainings to community-based youth and child service providers, really focusing on the clinical model, really trying to elevate that direct work every day with kids. The trainings have included evidence-based programs that are on the Families First Clearinghouse, so that will help further our readiness for implementation, whatever that'll look like. And regardless, we think these trainings will help elevate the direct work with children and youth all over the state. We have various local community-based care readiness efforts underway around Texas to help build and support collaborations to think about how their community can come together to support their families that are involved in child welfare. I can't say enough about how fun this work has been. These communities are bringing their own leaders, their own vision, their own spirit to this work, and it's just really, really cool to be a part of it. We also have our big conference coming up. This is our annual conference for child welfare professionals. It will go on even virtually, October 19th through the 21st. This conference is not only where many child welfare professionals will get their continuing education hours, but it's really where we come together to discuss issues, advance our work collectively, and we try to have a little bit of fun as well. I want to acknowledge the federally supported work that we are partnering with the Texas Institute for Child and Family Wellbeing over at the UT School of Social Work. Dr. Monica Faulkner and her team have brought together an incredible group to help really develop a model and reimagine how foster care can work with biological families and foster families. We are entering year 3, which is going to be the fun part, where we are piloting this new model in South Texas, in Houston, and then in the Abilene, Wichita Falls area. So I hope at some point we can bring more information about that project. I also want to acknowledge Vicki Spriggs in Texas CASA. She and I put our heads together in response to what we were both hearing from our networks, and we are working together on some ways to reinforce strong community relationships between private foster care providers and their local CASA. So more on that soon. And then I really just want to acknowledge the work of Jocelyn and Jamie and the Children's Commission team. We have been honored to participate in the statewide trauma-informed task force and those groups, and just really excited about the work coming out of those groups. So thank you.
All right, thank you. And any questions? Katie. All right. Thank you, Katie, and appreciate all the work y'all are doing. And I know Justice Robbie Partita Kipnis is on. I don't believe she had any updates, so we're going to keep moving forward. And we'll move on next to Cindy Patrick.
Good morning, and it's interesting that I go after Katie because a lot of our report involves Katie's alliance group too. So the philanthropic sector in Texas really kicked into gear when the pandemic caused the shelter in place orders, and all of us have been busy funding different projects in different situations, trying to help with PPE, trying to help with different providers across the state during a time of having to pivot to mostly virtual services and do other types of activities that were unexpected in most nonprofit budgets. So we at the end of March invited Katie's group as well as DFPS. Christine Blackstone represented DFPS to give the funders across the state an update on what was happening in child protection and the CPS services, also trying to compare the response after Hurricane Harvey with what we could possibly look at to fund to make sure that immediate response was received money to be able to do. We did that, and then across the last few months, we have been able to fund a number of groups such as Katie's group, the Texas Alliance, in what we call sub-grant programs, which provided funding to different affiliates across the state, different providers across the state that work with foster children and other children at risk, including T-Noise. We also funded a sub-grant program for them too. We are planning our group, our funders group that has been trying to create a statewide funders collaborative on behalf of the child welfare system. We originally planned an in-person meeting at Casey Family Programs in May in Austin, and of course that had to be postponed. Now we have rescheduled for a virtual meeting October 22nd after our Affinity Philanthropy group meets the day before virtually. And we hope to be able to bring in quite a number of different foundations and charitable trusts that have not been part of our group in the past, but bring everyone up to speed on where we are with child protection, what the future holds, what the legislative session may hold. And we are very honored that Commissioner Masters and Deneen Dryden are going to be featured speakers at that particular gathering. And that's basically my report. We are just trying to keep on top of things by using and asking the best minds and providers across the state to inform us as we go.
Thank you, Cindy. Anybody have any questions for her? All right. All right, we'll keep moving forward then. And Judge Frank Rind, I think, there you are.
Thank you. Just a very brief report. I don't want to take any thunder away from Vicki Spriggs. I left the family court bench about 10 years ago and joined the board of child advocates in Houston, which is the Houston affiliate of Texas CASA. And I just wanted to report, we had our Zoom board meeting yesterday by coincidence. And it's amazing, in spite of everything, the organization is now still recruiting volunteers. They're training them virtually. Something we had looked at doing for years, because in Houston, we were doing the training at our headquarters in person, and with the traffic and everything, now there's no traffic, but we've now implemented online training. I think it's going very well. My hope is, and like many of you, I'm very surprised at how well Zoom has worked in the courts too. I've had to participate in several court Zoom hearings, but one of the complaints, I was the chair of our recruitment committee for a couple of years, that we got from volunteers who were leaving, in addition we did surveys, was the time, at least in Harris County, they had to wait in line or wait to be called, and they had to take the whole day off work or the whole afternoon. And maybe we can move towards allowing child advocates, now that we have more experience with Zoom hearings, when the circumstances are such, to be able to testify by Zoom in the future. That might help us retain good child advocates and recruit more. But again, the fundraising is all different. the events. We're doing a virtual fun run in October. I don't know how that is going to happen, but it is going to happen in some fashion. But again, still getting people who are interested and still participating to the extent they can. And then I want to compliment Justice Countess, again, as a former family court judge. I appreciate her inclusiveness of the family court judges and the civil bench bar, and recognizing they have dockets that produce sometimes special challenges. So I just want to thank you for your comments earlier. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Yes. I think you're back on mute. If you.
One other quick thing. I know we've all read about the increase in domestic violence. We know that in the schools that are still meeting virtually, unaccounted children, probably because they don't have access to computers. I just personally am concerned that once we do get more or less back to normal, hopefully there will not have been an increase in physical child abuse during this period. I think we just need to be alert for that, because so often the schools are where the reports are made and the kids aren't there. And so anyway, it's a concern I have, and hopefully it's a unmerited concern. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, and next up, I believe we'll hear from Judge Michael Schneider. And I think, Judge Schneider, your setup is much more professional than mine is, so.
Well, thank you, and thanks for having me. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I echo a lot of what folks have said about Zoom. In Harris County, my experience has been that the family, juvenile, and the Gulf Coast project courts are running very smoothly with Zoom. And I also hope that in the future, this is a good way to have, whether it's child advocates or witnesses from out of state, be able to participate a lot easier than when everyone had to be there in person. I'm proud to report that Judge Sonia Heath started what I believe is the first family jury trial in Harris County in the 310th, where they picked the jury at NRG, and then I believe are moving back to the courthouse, the civil courthouse, to finish it. And I thought that was a very innovative way to do something like this. I imagine that since the family courts are doing it, it's going to eventually involve the child welfare cases. That's kind of in contrast to I'm supposed to testify in person on a certification hearing as an expert in Fort Bend County. And so they've really sort of moved things a lot more quickly as far as away from Zoom, is my understanding. In the child welfare section, we recently issued a statement about the importance of supporting very high quality diversity training. We did that as a unanimous statement. Since our last meeting, I have joined the board of the Center for Science and Law in Palo Alto, California, and here in Houston. As many of you know, that's started by the neuroscientist David Eagleman. We have a really great group of people at the center, from Barry Scheck to my friend David Dow. And I've been working a lot with Sasha Davenport as part of the data committee. They're interested in helping us work on the CPCMS, the database that's used by a lot of the specialty courts, in trying to make that more of a statewide endeavor. And allow us to be able to gather data to see what might be working, what might not be working, and allow judges to sort of customize how they look at their own dockets, and even dockets of other judges across the state. And so I'm very excited about that, and that seems to have a lot of folks interested in it, especially Judge Villalon's comments. I think were very, very positive in hopefully getting that going. What else? I'm going to be doing a couple of child welfare related podcasts that should be coming up pretty soon. One, I can't go too much into it, but one of them is from a very well-known podcast company that does true crime serial podcasts, and they're doing one on one specific CPS case. And then I'm going to be on a podcast tonight about human trafficking for a show called Texas Radical that I believe is going to be on KPFT. But that's what's going on in our area, and it's great to see everybody, even if it's just virtually.
That's great to hear. I'm going to tune in and see what I can hear, listen to. All right. Any questions for Judge Snyder? All right. And I think next
I have one question, if you don't mind, Judge McCraw. Judge Snyder, can you send us the information on the podcast so we can listen in?
I will do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. And Judge Randy Shelton, I think you're up next.
Thank you. I wanted to talk about our domestic violence recovery program, and it was inspired by Judge Sakai. And when I grow up, I want to be just like Judge Sakai. We started our program. We have 5 mothers so far, and generally we see domestic violence victims in protective orders and criminal cases, but the victims are not generally interested in counseling. I think they ask, why do I need help? I'm the victim. So that's what, so we were trying to find a way to get to where we could find ways for victims to get help and kind of break the cycle. Unlike protective order and criminal cases, of course, CPS cases are different. Children are indirect victims, and in the CPS case, at least we have some leverage. And as a side note, I've noticed that the affidavits I get for protective orders and also in removals are strangely similar. And I'm trying to look at these cases and try to figure out how is it that some come in as protective orders and others come in as CPS cases. But what we're doing in the DVR program is we're identifying mothers in CPS removal cases who have been victims of domestic violence, and that domestic violence is a factor in the removal at the time of and we identify these cases at the time of the adversarial hearing. Oftentimes we have someone that'll look at the affidavits in advance and just kind of flag them so that I can see them when they're coming through. But the parent is assessed at our women's shelter. They're kind of a new partner. And if the assessment indicates a need, then the parent is ordered into the domestic violence victims counseling that's run by the shelter. It is not a voluntary program. We're looking at trying to make incorporating that, of course, into the service plan. The counseling that the victims receive is individual and group. The cool thing is I'm always aggravated because it seems like it takes assessments, weeks and weeks to get assessments. But with our new, with the women's shelter, we're getting assessments within days, so we can start counseling right away, sometimes even before the service plan is developed. If we accept the fact that parents are neglectful by allowing their children to be present in these violent, relationships, but also the parents are victims as well. The shelter is a great resource for this program because it specializes in domestic violence victims anyway. They have all kinds of connections with other domestic violence partners. On the flip side of this, we're also looking into ordering fathers that are domestic violence perpetrators in CPS cases into BIP programs. We don't have a women's BIP yet, and we don't have a men's DVR program yet, but I think as we start, focusing on domestic violence in these CPS cases, we'll have enough people to where we can justify, creating those programs. In the past, both victims and perpetrators are being sent to anger management, but anger management is pretty generic. It's really not specific as to the needs, of the participants. And clearly, and I'm finding also that domestic violence programs really aren't too terribly understood. And I mean, especially among judges, domestic violence anger management or BIP, which one fits what situation. We're also working on how this is going to coordinate with our substance abuse disorder cases and also with mental health. There's been some discussion that now instead of, it seems like in the past we've had sort of a separate, substance abuse track, but now this may bring us to the point to where we're looking at also a domestic violence track. and possibly in the future, something, a mental health track, in domestic cases. I know, of course, there's a lot of overlap, and we're trying to figure out how how that's going to be layered. We're looking at using maybe a drug court model. I guess the biggest issue that we're facing is this is not a voluntary program, though. This will be court ordered. We also need to look at making more frequent hearings to ensure that we have compliance, and so that we can praise progress. There are some, and I think I brought this up at the last meeting, I did locate, there are some AA type programs for domestic violence victims. And it doesn't, of course, necessarily have to be an AA program, but some sort of aftercare. If we can just get that implemented in our community, then we can build, then we'll have a program for, parents that come out of the program or phase out. This thing is very narrowly focused for the time being. This is strictly CPS, strictly mothers, and strictly domestic violence victims. We're looking at, of course, expansions. The jail is interested in a DVR program for their inmates that would work alongside with their NA and AA programs, because there's a lot of victims that end up in jail. We've had some interest in surrounding counties. So as soon as we can kind of get this, iron out all the wrinkles, then maybe we can move that on. We were looking also at some point, not just bringing this up in removal cases, but making this a resource for FBSS cases, safety plans, court order participation. The women's shelter is also seeking a grant for a domestic violence recovery program for children. So we may be able to funnel some of our foster kids into that program. We don't have anything in this area for Spanish-speaking communities, but that's high on our list, is to develop this into for Spanish-speaking participants. And that's about it. And so I'm looking forward, Judge Alvarado, Rosie, to maybe working with you guys, because I haven't found a lot on anything quite this specialized, and so. And I'm a terrible planner, and I'm not very well organized whatsoever. It drives my wife crazy, but anyway, we've started. It seems to be working okay. It's just trying to get everybody, on the same page with what we're trying to do. So, and that's all I've got from Beaumont, Jefferson County, the pearl of the Texas Gulf Coast.
That was a lot of information, very helpful. Does anybody have any questions for Judge Shelton?
Just to follow up, I've already messaged Judge Sakai and Judge Monique Diaz to let them know about that, and that we need to pair you guys up.
Actually, we met with your domestic violence. Domestic violence prevention program, Marta, I think. Anyway, so yeah, she zoomed in with us, several months ago, and she kind of told me a little bit about y'all's program, and so. Anyway, I'm just, but I'm real excited because my resources are so limited here, and it would be great to have a partner county with unlimited resources, that can kind of, help us, like I said, knock off the rough edges.
Absolutely. That's wonderful.
Unlimited resources sounds good.
I don't know about that, but we got some.
All right, we'll continue hearing commissioner updates. If we can hear from Luann Southern next.
Good morning, everyone. It does my heart good to see everybody. It feels like it's been a long time since we've all connected. So good to see everyone. I would be remiss working in mental health by not saying to you all that I hope you're doing well. I hope that you are finding time for self-care. Most people that I talk to nowadays, whether it's professionally or personally, are struggling. And just with the social isolation and not being able to do things that we used to do and see each other like we used to. So just want to remind everyone that healthy communities and healthy families make healthy children, and we have to make sure to take care of ourselves. So I hope that you all are able to do that and find the time that you need for self-care. It's really important, especially now. And we don't know what the future is going to look like. We don't know what the new normal will be, but we'll just have to all plan together. That's the way we make things work. This is my first meeting in a role that's different than previously. I, as you know, was at Casey Family Programs and was honored to be on the commission in that role. I took on a role in November, working for the University of Texas System Administration with Dr. Lakey. We are responsible for overseeing implementation of the Texas Child Mental Health Care Consortium, which was passed during the last legislative session through Senate Bill 11. The legislature was very generous in looking at how to improve access for children with mental health needs across the state of Texas, using the academic health science centers across the state, departments of psychiatry, and partnering together to provide specialized services focused on telehealth, which was very progressive, if you think about it, given our COVID situation and the fact that many children and families are at home and still in need of services. And so I am working with our team to get the 5 initiatives rolled out. I will tell you that most of you who know me know I'm pretty type A, so we're not letting COVID keep us down. We're making sure that we are crossing our T's, dotting our I's, getting the revenue where it needs to go so that we can implement these services, because we know that they are needed now more than ever. One of those initiatives is called the Child Psychiatry Access Network, also referred to as CPAN. And we are providing a consultation through the departments of child psychiatry across the academic health institutions to pediatric primary care practices. Many of you know that we have a shortage of child psychiatrists across the state, which is not a new issue. It's something that is across the country, a great need. And so many children are getting their mental health services met by their primary care physician and their pediatricians. Sometimes when children see the pediatrician, though, they may have an issue that the pediatrician would like to have a consultation with a child psychiatrist about. And so we, through a 1-800 number, actually it's a 1-888 number that just rolled out in April. It's 1-888-901-CPAN. Pediatricians and primary care physicians can enroll and participate and call in and receive a consultation from a child and adolescent psychiatrist for specific situations that they are involved with a particular child. Through that program, we're also able to provide training and support to pediatricians and primary care physicians on children's mental health topics. For example, if a pediatrician is seeing children who may have depression, we'll be able to provide training on depression so that they can learn about it, know how to treat it, gain more information and support about how to serve as that behavioral health provider for children with mental health needs in Texas. Our model is very ambitious. Other states are looking at us already because it's so big and our state is so diverse. We have many health-related institutions across the state. And so we're very excited about that initiative. So far, we have approximately 1,500 pediatric physicians who are enrolled in that service. One of the challenges we've had as a result of the pandemic, as you know, we can't do one-on-one meetings with people. So it's been somewhat difficult to get our marketing and communication strategies out there. We've had to kind of pivot the way that's done now so that pediatricians and primary care practices know about us. But we worked with the Texas Pediatric Society, the Medicaid office to try and get the word out that we're out there and available for those consultations. One of our other initiatives is called the Child Health Access Through Telemedicine Initiative. It's also known as TChat. So if you hear people talking about TChat, that's what it is. TChat is there to provide services for schools. If a school identifies a student that they think may be at risk and may need a behavioral health assessment, they are able to contact contact us and receive an initial assessment to determine what the child's needs might be, and then link them out into the community for longer term services. Obviously, because of COVID, students are not in schools at the campus. We have been able to, though, develop MOUs with about 138 school districts so far. That would impact about 1,330 school campuses across the state. And we are working with the schools to be very creative about the provision of telehealth services, even though the students are not physically on the school campus. So our institutions like University of Texas Medical Branch, Texas Tech in Lubbock, are already providing those services using a similar approach like we are right now. More online telehealth type of services to provide supports for those students and their families. We also have some child psychiatry workforce expansion initiatives. One of those places psychiatric residents within the public community mental health system across the state so that they can gain experience working in the public sector. And they are working right now with 19 different community mental health provider organizations across the state. And what that's doing is it will allow for the expansion of telepsychiatry into the rural areas of our state, which we are very excited about. I mean, it will also help urban areas as well, but we know that there is a great need in rural areas for mental health services and access to psychiatry. Additionally, we have Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Fellowship expansion going on through the schools of psychiatry across those health institutions. We right now have filled 7 second-year fellowship positions and 7 first-year fellowship positions and 1 second-year fellowship position through this initiative. What we're hopeful for is that if a fellow can gain experience in the state of Texas, working in the public sector, they will want to stay here and practice here after they graduate, and hopefully get the bug of public service and want to be able to work inside a public sector agency to provide services. And then lastly, our 5th initiative is a research initiative. We the executive committee determined that they wanted to focus research on 2 specific areas. The first one is childhood depression and suicide. Then that one will be led by the University of Texas Southwestern up in Dallas. A gentleman by the name of Dr. Madhukar Trivedi will be leading that initiative. His co-lead is Dr. Sarah Wakefield from Texas Tech University in Lubbock, and they will be focused on childhood depression and suicide. The second initiative for research will be focused on childhood trauma. And for that particular one, I would definitely like to link up with the work of the commission so that we can link those efforts up. And as we learn more about childhood trauma and some of those evidence-based practices, we can work with the commission on that. That particular initiative is being led at the University of Texas Dell Medical School. Dr. Charles Nemiroff is the lead researcher for that project, and his co-lead is Dr. Karen Wagner from the University of Texas Medical Branch. So I know that's a lot of information in a short period of time, but I am happy to be here, happy to be a part of the commission. I know there's lots of crossover for children and families involved in child protective services with the need for mental health care. So I'm happy to be here in this role.
Thank you, and great to hear from you in your new role. Anyone have any questions?
See everybody. And I'm always excited about the different things that are happening across this state that benefit children and families. And as part of Texas CASA, I am always excited that we have such activism coming from the bench. And Texas CASA has a history of annually recognizing a judge, of the many who are doing wonderful things. We'll pick one judge each year to highlight. And last year, we honored Judge Carlos Villalon at the Child Protection Judges Conference. It was almost a year ago, actually. It was October of 2019. And we thought we would surprise him with this recognition at the conference, only he surprised us because he had to leave early. And so for the last year, we've been trying to create an event or be someplace at the same time where we could provide this recognition, and most importantly, in front of his peers. And so I am thrilled today, on behalf of Texas CASA, to be able to recognize Judge Carlos Villalon of the Child Protection Court of the Rio Grande Valley for his outstanding service, judicial leadership, and innovation. When we think of what makes an outstanding judge, Carlos exemplifies these qualities and traits. I've served with him on the Children's Commission, and we know from our CASA program in Hidalgo County that he is thoughtful, fair, and compassionate. He's also humble, which is very important when faced with the difficult and far-reaching implications of decisions in child protection cases. In addition to his sterling qualities as a person and a judge, Carlos Villalon is also an innovator. He has sought out, researched, and developed new approaches based on best practices, evidence-based programs, and emerging areas of knowledge. I want to mention 4 areas where he's leading judicial innovation. First, he's been a leader and innovator with his recognition of the impact of trauma on children and families, and his efforts to assure his court and legal practices are trauma-informed. Judge Villalon has brought in trauma training for those who practice in his court and uses a trauma lens more clearly to understand the needs of children and families who come before him. He also continues to bring his work to the Children's Commission to help expand understanding statewide. He's also been an innovator in understanding and responding to cultural and diversity in the children, to culture and diversity to children and families and communities that are represented in his court. As we know, the Rio Grande Valley contains a mixture of languages, individuals of diverse national origins, races, ethnicities, and economic status. In his approach and judicial practices, he embraces and expands these differences based on his fundamental respect for all people. This approach is the way we overcome prejudice and help create justice. CASA is also grateful to Judge Villalon for his leadership in recognizing the centrality of human connection to healing children and families. He has embraced and promoted family finding, or the family finding approach that Texas CASA has developed, along with Child Protective Services, called our Collaborative Family Engagement Initiative. Children, parents, and families need support and connection in a multitude of ways, and our Collaborative Family Engagement Initiative tries to make this happen. Judge Villalon has made this approach a standard practice and brought collaborative family engagement training to attorneys in his court. And finally, Judge Villalon is leading the way to improve judicial practice for dual status youth in concert with the Children's Commission on the Children's Commission's Dual Status Task Force. His court will be one of the 3 initial pilot projects to explore new approaches to dual status cases. In recognition for his outstanding character and service as a child protection court judge, and in honor of his role as an innovator in judicial thought and practice, it's my pleasure to recognize Judge Carlos Villalon on behalf of Texas CASA with this award that will finally be mailed to him later this week, or I should say early next week. Oh, it doesn't show up well, does it? I'm so sorry. Well, if I bring it back, you can't really see it, but it is beautiful, Judge, and we are so, so honored to be able to make this presentation to you and so thankful for everything that you do.
Thank you so much, Vicki. Much appreciated. I don't know exactly how much time I have here, but I did prepare some words here. And I want to begin by thanking Vicki and of course everybody at Texas CASA for this special recognition. It's truly an honor, but I need to give an explanation because this has been a year. So, and I know Judge Rob Hoffman has been waiting for this one. So here we go. So almost a year ago at the Child Welfare Conference, my name was called out during the annual CASA reception, Texas CASA reception, and I wasn't there. And I do apologize for my absence. I had absolutely no clue or expectation that I would be honored that evening. If anybody ever had any doubts about CASA's commitment to confidentiality, I can tell you right now that they can keep a secret. And I had no idea. And of course, not anticipating what was going to happen that evening, and with the wheels always turning with me, I had committed to taking a conference call, actually with Casey Family Programs and on immigration issues to help them out with a strategy brief that they published on their website. And so that's what I was doing that evening, and I'm sticking to that story. And so I had attended every CASA reception since 2012 when I took the bench, and the one I had to miss was the one that I was being recognized. I didn't know anything about it until mid-morning the next day when my former coordinator, Judge Brown is familiar with, Delilah Alvarez, texted me congratulations. And the working relationship that we've had, and she's like family to me, I thought she was just messing with me, so I just kind of let it go. It wasn't until Judge Delia Gonzalez came up to me and congratulated me that I kind of got a little sick. I finally worked up the nerve to go ask Tina what had happened, and she confirmed. And so it wasn't until then that I realized the honor that I'd missed that evening and why no one was speaking to me that morning. So that's my story, and that's what happened. But I heard it was awesome. There were a lot of great things that were said in my honor, and it was certainly appreciated. And needless to say, I'm so happy to be here today to explain my absence and to everyone here about what CASA means to me and the recognition that this means to me. In my eyes, this recognition, this is really a reflection of the great work that we are doing in the Valley. What I am doing, what we are doing is not possible unless you develop a culture that welcomes change and fosters innovation. We have an environment where stakeholders work together, and it's something we really didn't have when I started in 2012. But I will tell you that one of the first partners to reach out to me to work together was Texas CASA in Casa Hidalgo County. Within a month of taking the bench, Kathy Cockerham came down to visit me and to establish that partnership and discuss how the court and CASA could work together to improve outcomes for families. And so it began there. And then with the local bar and with the department and bringing the immediate stakeholders in, eventually joining, actually being lucky enough to be appointed to the commission and work with the commission on several projects. Then NCJ, FCJ through their implementation sites project, from there, we built our collaborative. And so now we have the Coalition for Empowering Children and Families, and we continue to work very closely with the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley and the Office of Victim Advocacy. There's always been support, and this has been mentioned before numerous times this morning, from OCA and David Slayton. Without their support, we couldn't get any of this stuff done. And so much appreciated. And then none of this would be possible without having a great presiding judge who supports the work that we're doing. And so I want to thank Judge Missy Maderi in the 5th Region for their trust and for giving us a green light and a go-ahead with everything that we are doing. Successfully working together as a group, as a collaborative, is a reason that really I'm here today, is because of what we are doing as a group. As it's been stated many times, you know, to have a successful child welfare system, you got to have a great CASA program. And I'm proud to say this is exactly what we have in Hidalgo County. Veronica Whitaker and her staff have built a program that's gained the trust and respect of all of our child welfare stakeholders, whether it's the Christmas party that they host every year for our children, or piloting innovative practices like the Collaborative Family Engagement Program, which Vicki just touched upon, which is a game changer for us. We can count on CASA to advocate for the best interests of our children and to look for new ways to improve outcomes for families. Of course, like every other judge here in the state, we rely heavily on what the CASA guardian ad litems do for us in our hearings and what they report to us, especially now during the pandemic. They are our extra eyes and ears for the court and advocate for what's in their best interests. They tell us about the children's likes and dislikes. If they are happy in their placement, they'll tell us about their progress in the school and their health and what is vital to the court. And those things are vital to the court and they do an amazing job of that. But just as important, and something that, you know, I'm a data person, so I like to read data, but this is something that can't be measured. And, you know, just as important is a strong bond that a volunteer develops with our kiddos. And you see that in court, you see that outside of court. You can't measure the joy of a teenager when his CASA guardian ad litem is there to offer congratulations at the graduation, and to give them a hug at the very end. You can't measure the joy of a child when they appear on Zoom and they see their guardian ad litem and express how much they miss them. And so we are truly blessed to have a great CASA program in the Valley. We're truly blessed to have all the work that Texas CASA is doing for us. And so I want to thank Vicki and Texas CASA for this amazing honor. And I want to thank the commission for having me here today to give me this chance for redemption. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And very well deserved. I think I speak for everybody saying congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. And we did have Graham Keever on. Hopefully if he comes back, we can get an update from him in just a moment.
Justice McClure, I did have a couple of other things I'd like to add.
I'm so sorry, Vicki. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Judge Villalone mentioned our collaborative family engagement effort. And in fact, we added 2 new programs. So now we have our collaborative family engagement initiative in 71% of CASA programs. Again, there are 72 CASA programs in Texas, serving 217 of the state's 254 counties. So we're now in 71% of those programs beginning September 1st of this fiscal year, serving more and more children and families, obviously, each year. I also want to mention that we've been doing work since the beginning of the year to solicit feedback from judges, attorneys, parents, children, youth who've been in care previously, and parents and providers. And I especially want to thank the Children's Commission and Judge Hoffman, who arranged and facilitated a group feedback session with judges back in January. And we had a similar meeting with attorneys, with a group of attorneys in February. And then the pandemic hit, and so we had online feedback meetings facilitated by Katie Olson, the Alliance, with providers, as well as surveys and other mechanisms of feedback, conversations, et cetera, with parents and different parental stakeholders and youth who had formerly been in care. And we asked each group the same 3 questions. What's CASA doing well? What can we do better? And what specifically can CASA do with that particular group to improve our relationship? And so just a couple of quick notes on strengths. A lot of them Judge Villalone just mentioned. CASA volunteers form valuable relationships with the children they serve. CASA volunteers are a good source of stability and continuity within CPS cases. CASA volunteers and programs help collaborate with parents and other parties and participants in CPS cases with parents and attorneys ad litem and between foster families and parents. CASA volunteers help identify community resources to support children and families, and they contribute time and effort to provide transportation, respite, help with visitation, et cetera. And CASA volunteers present well in court. Areas of improvement that we will be and are paying attention to: increased diversity of volunteers to better reflect the children and families served, improved communication and partnership with parents and parents' attorneys. Materials and communications need to be developed to clearly explain the legal role and duties of CASA volunteers and programs, especially to parents and families of origin, foster parents, and kinship placements. That we need to develop enhanced training and cross-training of CASA's legal role, minimum acceptable levels of care, and the impact of trauma. And then we need increased focus on family reunification and parental rights. And lastly, CASA needs to be aware of how CASA interactions with CPS, attorneys ad litem, and others can create a perception of bias among parents. And so that's just the high notes of the information received. And we are paying attention to that because our goal is not to be better, it's to be the best. And we know that requires continuous improvement. So we're constantly soliciting feedback. So thank you, everybody who participated in that. Then the last item I want to draw attention to, actually a couple of things. our CASA Clergy and Community Initiative, which has been ongoing for the last 3 years in development. We are now at the place where we've developed a toolkit that CASA programs can use to engage the faith communities across the state, to both two toolkits actually, to inform the faith community about CASA and the needs of the child welfare system, and especially the toolkit for the CASA programs to be able to appropriately and culturally appropriately engage the various faith communities around the state. I am excited, and Katie already referenced the work that we're starting with the Alliance, and we're really excited and expect to have more to tell you in future meetings. And the last thing I want to say, because I am moving kind of quickly, is our annual meeting, which is normally held in October, has been moved like everything else to a virtual meeting, and we're having a distinguished speakers series that I will be sending information out to Jamie to let everyone know who our distinguished speakers are, because we haven't announced them yet, but we've got a great lineup. And so I hope you all will be able to Zoom in and attend. Thank you.
Thank you. Very helpful information. All right. And let's see, I think next up, if we could hear from a couple of our advisors. Sheila Craig, I know we heard from you earlier, but wanted to give you a chance if you had any other updates you'd like to provide. Yeah. All right, she may have dropped off. If she comes back, we'll catch up and see if she has anything else. And then Justice Massengale, if there's anything you'd like to update us on. And
I'm here. I just had to flip my video back on.
Sure.
I really appreciate hearing from everybody. I guess the one thing that's been on my mind that I want to chime in on and plant a seed with the people participating in this meeting is all of the benefits that we're seeing in the child welfare space to being able to leverage technology, open our minds to using video conferences. These are great developments, and I think there's also going to be many other opportunities for similar kinds of new thinking and improvements in the access to justice space. And that's something that we're talking about at the Access to Justice Commission. And I hope those of you who are trial judges with general jurisdiction and anybody else who has the opportunity will be thinking about how we can kind of learn from this experience and see what we can do to make courts easier to access for people who have difficulty taking a day from work to go to the courthouse. I just think the lessons we're learning right now are so valuable. And I can tell you that at the Access Justice Commission, I think we're going to be very eager to hear people's ideas about what we can do better. So that's it. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. All right, and I think that concludes our Commissioner and Advisor updates. So I'll turn it back over to Justice Guzman.
Thank you very much, Judge McCraw, for leading that portion of the meeting. I hope that as we move forward with future meetings that we continue to provide opportunities to develop the leadership among our staff and among our commissioners by having different portions of the meeting being led by all of the talent we have right now virtually, but usually around the room. Judge Byrne, thank you so much for your service. I got a text from someone while you were speaking, and they were so moved. They were moved to tears, not someone in the child welfare space. So thank you for your dedication and sharing. You're so generous and have been from the day I met you, with sharing your expertise and your wisdom and your compassion, and we're all the better for it. You will be missed on the bench, but I know that we will get to work with you and see you in whatever capacity comes up next. But we're just so grateful. I just wanted to say that because I wasn't presiding when you spoke. So thank you. Judge Countess, congratulations to your daughter graduating from Texas State and now joining DFPS. I know you're so proud, and we share in each other's joys, and we cry when we cry, but right now it's a joyous moment. And so we share with you the great joy, and couldn't be any more proud for her and for you. So thank you for sharing that with us. And Judge Hufstedler, and Justice Massengill mentioned this, the, this idea that maybe people can comply with O virtually. I can't even tell you how excited I am about that possibility. If anything good can come from this situation that we're in, it's seeing those types of changes that could literally have the potential to change the lives of children and parents. And so thanks for sharing that. I'm going to mention it to the court. I'm just super excited about that. And congratulations, Judge Villalone. We're trying to stay on time, so we're going to try to speed things up a little bit, but congratulations. We're so proud of you and just so fortunate to work with you. We have some space allotted for the executive director report. And so Jamie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Justice Guzman, and thank you to everyone who gave their commissioner updates. They're always very inspiring and energizing for me and our staff. It is absolutely an honor to welcome you as the executive director of the Children's Commission. I would be remiss if I didn't mention how grateful I am to Tina Amberboy for the foundation that she has laid at the Children's Commission, and her legacy is forever tied into the fabric of the Children's Commission. I also want to say a few words about our beloved chair, Justice Eva Guzman. Some of you may not be aware, but this year she celebrates a decade as our chair, as the leader of the Children's Commission. And I think you all know, but I feel it is absolutely important to mention that she is a visionary leader and someone I am extremely proud to work for. She carries this work with passion, drive, and dedication, and she is truly a model for judicial leadership. I really see her as a positive force. She always lifts people up, and I am in awe of her vision and her strength. So please join me in applauding her for her service.
No, thank you, but not necessary. Thank you.
I have a couple brief remarks before we launch into our slate of projects, and I just wanted to say that COVID has brought so much uncertainty in our lives and impacted our work in innumerable ways. This experience has also reinforced for me that as a child welfare system, we are resilient and we are stronger together than we are individually. And as the executive director, I just want you to know that I am unwavering in our commitment to support everyone on this commission and to support the commission as a voice for change in our state and a voice for improvement for our judiciary. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, both our longtime partners and our new ones. We could not do what we do without each and every one of you. So thank you for your service and for your partnership. For an update on the activities from May to September, you can reference tab 3, which is the report to the commission. But over the next about half hour, we're going to dive as fast as we can over our projected slate of projects and activities for fiscal year 2021. So we can go to the next slide. We organize all of our strategies under 9 goals, and the first 5 have to do with judicial leadership, best practices, collaboration, legal representation, and data. And the next have to do with disproportionality, tribal and state relationships, and administering our CIP program. So if you go to the next slide. We also organize our work by committee. We have 4 standing committees: the systems improvement, legal practice and process, training, and data. And this was a change we made at this meeting last year. You can see here the purpose statements for each of our committees, and underneath it are the projects that fall under each committee. And we have color-coded this entire presentation so that those projects that are under systems improvement are blue, and legal practice and process green, et cetera. Those without colors in black font are more operational, that kind of just go into our day-to-day functioning. And there's 1 ad hoc committee, which I will mention later in the presentation. On the next slide, it shows our membership for our committees and the assigned staff who works on the projects underneath each committee. And I want to say to those committee members listening here with us, thank you for joining us today as attendees. We had a call with all of our committee members on September the 4th and have incorporated their feedback on our proposed slate and budget into our presentation today. So we're launching here now into our projected projects for fiscal year 2021. And if you see the term staff directed, what that means is it's being absorbed in our budget by operational costs. And the dollar amounts on other items you will see indicate anticipated spending related to the project. For instance, printing, meeting, support, or travel. Some of the dollar amounts that you'll see are attributed to grants with other organizations. And Patrick is going to go over the budget and financial report at the end of our presentation. So launching into 1A1, this is our prevention strategy. And in the coming fiscal year, we anticipate having a prevention session at our annual judicial conference. And we will follow developments on FFPSA and the state strategic plan and participate in the prevention and early intervention framework work group through PEI. I am very happy you all met Amy today. She's going to be working on our prevention, education, and human trafficking initiatives going forward. So I'll turn it next to Renee, and each staff person that works on a particular project will report on their own projects.
Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to provide you with the update on the Education Committee's continued efforts to implement the Texas Blueprint. Foster Care and Education Committee met on August 21st and identified several topics for work group projects in the next fiscal year, which include credit recovery, compensatory services, school normalcy activities, the completion of the Every Student Succeeds Act toolkit, in addition to completing a couple of projects that are rolling over from this current fiscal year, which include resources for higher education webinar series and the ESSA work group infographic on School of Origin. Thank you.
Next is mine, is our trauma work, and I'm heartened to hear all the updates from the commissioners on the trauma work being done in your individual capacities, and excited to continue collaborating with many of you and beginning new collaborations or reinvigorating collaborations going forward. We will continue with Judge Byrne in leading the work of the statewide collaborative on trauma-informed care implementation task force, and the task force is charged with prioritizing strategies from the trauma blueprint, and it will continue to utilize the work groups we've created and other tools to accomplish the goals set forth in the blueprint. We're making progress on many of these strategies, including continuing our work towards supporting a Texas-specific trauma-informed website for child welfare, and we're excited to keep pushing forward in 2021 on these strategies. And additionally, as Judge Byrne mentioned, we have landed on a new date for our Judicial Trauma Institute of February 17th and 18th. Will be virtual, and we are excited to continue utilizing the training work group of the SUTIC to help under Judge Villalone and Lauren Bledsoe's leadership to assist the commission staff in curriculum revisions for the virtual format.
Next up, we have our human trafficking prevention efforts, and we will continue to participate on the Office of the Attorney General's Human Trafficking Prevention Task Force and continue to partner with
You froze, Jamie. Jamie, you might need to log off and log back in.
Let me do something while Jamie addresses those issues. And we have David Slayton from the Office of Court Administration with us. And in order to move the meeting along, I'm going to interrupt Jamie's presentation and then get David Slayton to make his presentation. And then we will come back to Jamie while she addresses the Wi-Fi issues. I really do want to finish by 1. So we've had a fabulous morning, but we'll try to move a little quicker. So Jamie is on hold, and David Slayton, thank you so much. We so appreciate you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Justice Guzman, and good morning, commissioners and guests. It's good to be with you virtually. Thanks for all the very nice things that have been said. As you know, there's been a lot of folks working on this and a lot of very dedicated judges. I join the folks who recognized our Texas judges as really leading the way. It's been really fabulous to watch judges just jump in and start doing it. I've told my colleagues around the country that many times if we were trying to do this, it would have taken years, but in a matter of a couple of weeks, the judges really did get up and on board with doing things remotely. And we've seen really positive responses. Just to give you a sense of how big of a deal this is, since the first day that courts started holding hearings remotely, we've had over 500,000 hearings in the state in the last 6 months held remotely, involving 1.3 million participants and 1 million hours of hearings. It's been fairly huge. Some of our major users, the leading users are our CPS courts, our children's courts that are hearing CPS cases are always on the leaderboard if there's such on the account. As far as the top 10 users are always those. And I join what was said earlier, that the work that the Children's Commission did early on in setting up a way for courts to allow people to participate remotely really laid the groundwork for us being able to quickly transition. So congratulations to all of you that have been involved in that over the years, and we're grateful for that work. A couple of things in addition to remote appearances. As you probably know, the Supreme Court has suspended jury trials, which obviously have an impact on all cases, and obviously trying to make sure that we keep the public safe. They did permit a limited number of jury trials to occur during the summer with OCA working with those courts. And we've had, as of today, about 30, actually not about, but exactly 30 jury trials, as was mentioned, the one mentioned earlier, but we've had 30 around the state. Just to put that in perspective, in Texas, we generally have about 186 jury trials per week. We've had 30 since March, so you can imagine the backlog of cases. The Supreme Court just an hour ago issued an order, which may be news to some of you, that lays out how jury trials are to occur after October the 1st. That suspension has been set to expire on September the 30th, and the Supreme Court has just laid out that order, and it's now posted on the website. Just to give you a brief way that will work is that in district, county courts, and statutory probate courts, statutory county courts, they will be permitted to begin having in-person jury trials after October 1st with certain conditions, including a plan to how they're going to address various precautions and issues. And along those lines, they will also have to hear objections if there are some made on the record. So there's a process that the court has laid out, which I think is really well done. The other thing is that virtual jury trials will be permitted, but the court will have to hear any objections to that if they want. So one of the things that we're really concerned about is the delay. As you can imagine, hearing 186 jury trials a week. We've not had jury trials in almost 7 months now. And so basically, I added up the number this morning, that we would have normally had 5,300 jury trials during that time frame. So over 2,000 of those jury trials would have been in jailable criminal cases, which will generally take priority. So the courts are going to have to work very hard, and we're not going to be able to get it back up to full capacity during the pandemic just because of the space requirements to do this. It's generally taking anywhere from 2 to 3 courtrooms and NRG Stadium and other ballrooms and things like that. So, but the courts are working very hard to do that. We've worked really hard, and I think the message needs to be that the court's order today sets out a framework that we can begin to have jury trials again in a safe way across the state, that local judges begin to have that control to do those, and that we can begin to return more to normal with jury trials, not obviously back to normal. So that's, I think, really good news. The last thing I would say is that I know there's been some discussion. I know Judge Morales talked about the human trafficking screening tool that she's using. We've received requests from the governor's office, and we jointly met with the Children's Commission staff with the governor's office to try to get more judges trained on that tool and have access to it. Obviously, one of the things I've heard from judges a lot is a desire to want to have some information to know whether or not someone is at risk or potentially involved in human trafficking. And I know Judge Morales has found the tool to be very helpful, and the governor's office has reached out and offered to make that training available more broadly. Obviously, we would love to do that in person. That's not going to be possible. So we're looking at a way to do that virtually to start having judges go through that training. I think we can do 20 to 30 at a time. So it'll take a while, but we're going to do our best to try to get that training out working with the Children's Commission. So you'll hear more about that very soon. I wanted to show a video to you, but I will just post it into the chat just for time purposes. We did a video in April. It's old now, but still relevant, showing how courts are using remote technology, and specifically in this one involving a CPS case adoption, and the family talking about how appreciative they were that they could get this adoption underway. It's one of our CPS courts. So anyway, I'll post it in the chat, and I hope you'll go look at it later. It's a really feel-good video showing the work of our judges across the state. And with that, I'll answer any questions if there are any, or turn back the remainder of my time.
Any questions for David, particularly for our trial judges? If there's anything that he can clarify for you. Okay, then, David, we appreciate you, and we may even take that video and send it out to our listserv if it'll go out. You know, sometimes videos don't travel well, but thank you, and thank you for always being so supportive. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. Jamie, are you back on?
I am back. The technology gods are apparently not on my side today. Sincere apologies to all of you.
No problem. Please proceed.
Okay, we were on 2A1, which is roundtable topics, and by design, these are on emerging topics. So we will try to respond as best we can and be nimble with topics that are urgent. We have initially had conversations about reasonable efforts as a possible roundtable topic for fiscal year 2021. Moving on to the next one, as you all know, we are very fortunate to have Judge Dean Rucker and Judge Rob Hoffman as our jurists in residence and as very trusted advisors. I can brag on them a little bit and say I get contacted from people all over the nation looking to us to replicate our JIR model. So that's really kudos to them and to Judge Sage and Judge Specia, who came before them, who've served in that role. But this strategy just speaks to continuing to support the JIR program. Regarding the next one, we will release our 2020 bench book in October of this year and maintain the content online through Lawbox and through a PDF. We will also print those to judges who are interested in having a printed copy. And after the legislative session, we will add legislative updates to the bench book and other new content for the 2021 version. The next strategy you see here relates to the regular communiques that we provide to judges and attorneys. We have over 4,000 at this point, and we try to highlight topics and updates that may be of interest to judges and lawyers around the state. The last one you'll see here on the slide relates to our website, which is our primary communication channel. And this is the way we maintain background on our projects and our reports. And we also have a Twitter feed on our website. So if you haven't checked it out, please do.
Thank you, Jamie. Next slide, please. Oh, I think there's one more for you, Jamie.
Yes, there is. The first one here is about reserving monies for providing local support on an ad hoc basis. This could be coordinating a speaker or providing meeting support or technical assistance to local jurisdictions.
Thank you. And I'm going to report on the projects that fall under the Data Committee and the Legal Process and Practice Committee. The first is our partnership with the Office of Court Administration regarding the Child Protection Court Case Management System. We continue to update that case management system with the input of our CPC Advisory Council, including some updates that implemented a data dashboard so the judges can pick key data elements that they want to track to be easily accessible from their home screen. We plan on continuing to update that system, including the ability to flag cases with jury demands and UCC JEA issues The next update of the system should be in January of 2021. And also the Advisory Council is committed this session to continuing to discuss the dual status pilot project for CPC courts and making sure that the CPCMS system has fields that allow them to track the necessary juvenile justice fields they anticipate will need to be added for CPC courts to handle those systems. We also continue to support child and family engagement through the use of video conferencing. This is one of those changes that's taken on a pretty dramatic change since the outbreak of COVID. As we all know, as David Slayton explained, the OCA did a wonderful job of transitioning all courts to the Zoom platform, and that allowed children to participate in their hearings via Zoom rather than through the life-size platform that had been the standard for children participating virtually in hearings. The child protection courts have provided feedback that they really have embraced the use of Zoom for child participation in hearings. And so the life-size platform is going to be retired in favor of maintaining those Zoom licensing. OCA is also committed to developing an online scheduling tool for hearings that include child participation through video conferencing to make scheduling those hearings more convenient for the court, for the placement facilities, for foster parents, as well as DFPS caseworkers. That platform will work with all platforms, Zoom and other platforms if courts decide to use those. They're developing that platform right now, and there should be a pilot project ready for 2021. And I just want to emphasize that the Commission is continuing to maintain the level of engagement that we've seen for children participating in their court hearings through virtual means. And we want to, again, sort of maintain that benefit of that increased participation even as we transition back to more in-person hearings.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dylan. Next up is providing support for specialty courts, dockets, or programs. This is also on an ad hoc basis and upon request. And the amount listed here on the slide has to do with a grant with OCA related to providing visiting judges for the child protection courts. The last one here is the ad hoc committee that I referred to earlier and Judge Coley talked about during his commissioner update, and that is the Dual Status Task Force. So it has an 18-month duration. It began in July of 2019 and will conclude in December of this year. We will generate a report with some recommendations related to data, definitions, training, judicial practices, agency coordination, and legal representation and advocacy. And as has already been mentioned, one of the main things to come out of this will be a pilot for the child protection courts to start hearing juvenile cases that we will track, hopefully through some research with the University of Texas, San Antonio. I'm up next here on the goal 3 strategies. And the first one here really has to do with the heart of what we do. And that's maintaining a commitment to multidisciplinary judicial commission that regularly collaborates with stakeholders that represent every facet of the child welfare system. The next one here memorializes our relationship with DFPS as a central component to everything we do at the Children's Commission, and that includes collaborating on the plans that we submit to the federal government.
Thank you, Jamie. So I want to update everyone on the progress on our legal representation committee. This is something that the Children's Commission has had since its beginning. We had the most recent meeting of our legal representation committee on August 28th, and I want to update you on a couple of projects. First, the task force on legal representation that came out of our 2018 legal representation study to recommend changes to the legislature has met several times over the course of the pandemic, including being able to get feedback from different models of representation all over the country to analyze what model might be a great fit for Texas. The task force has not built consensus around any particular model, but is instead focused on identifying the essential elements that a model needs to provide quality representation, and is recommending in their report that the legislature develop some pilot projects to experiment with different models of representation to find one that might be a right fit for Texas. The next meeting of the task force will be October 30th of this year, and we will conclude with a report to the legislature that will be delivered in November. One of the other projects that I wanted to update on is the toolkit for parents representing parents and children in CPS cases. This is the companion to our toolkit for DFPS attorneys that we published in 2018. It's designed to provide easy access to essential information that is specific to the needs of parents and children's attorneys. It is now available for free on the Children's Commission website. We will be publishing it on Lawbox platform in the fall to make it accessible on mobile devices and tablet devices. And we also have a survey to judges and lawyers out right now to try to gauge the interest in printing and distributing physical copies of the toolkit. And once we get that input, we'll develop a plan as to how best to do that. Another project for FY 2021 from the Legal Representation Committee that I wanted to update everyone on is materials designed to help children understand their relationship with their attorney. This is again a project that came out of our 2018 legal representation study. The committee is committed to developing some materials such as a coloring book and an animated video for younger children, and a comic book and a youth voice video for older children to help them understand what their attorney's role is, what makes them different than other parties in the case, and how to make best use of their attorney. And the committee is committed to partnering with T-Noise as well as the DFPS Youth Leadership Council to make sure that we have youth voice included on every step of the development of those materials. The committee is also focused on supporting other materials for this fiscal year. Most of the interest is developing training regarding assisting attorneys to adapting to the virtual environment. And so we're working with the training committee to identify and develop and prioritize those projects. We are also continuing to support the development and adoption of standards of representation for attorneys. This is something that's been folded into the work of the task force. The task force has a standing subcommittee that's working on developing those standards. The task force subcommittee has sort of changed its focus a little bit to making sure that there's a connection between the standards that attorneys are supposed to meet, the structure of the system that will allow them to actually meet those standards, and then the accountability part of the system that makes sure that attorneys are in fact doing what the standards require. So the task force is going to include in its report some guidance to the legislature as to how they can establish some Texas-specific standards of representation that will ensure quality representation. And that guidance has already begun to be drafted by the task force and will be incorporated into the final task force report. Additionally, the commission continues to support the Texas Board of Legal Specialization, Advisory, and Exam Committees, as well as the National Association of Counsel for Children in their efforts to certify Texas attorneys, both as Texas specialists and as national specialists in child welfare law. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Texas Board of Legal Specialization had to postpone their October 2020 exam, and instead that will be an online and remotely proctored exam that will occur in the spring of 2021. That exam does not yet have a date, but all of the 2020 applicants will be able to receive full credit for their exam and application fees and be able to sit for that exam. The Children's Commission plans to continue to partner with TBLS to reimburse people for the cost of those exam fees, and we anticipate doing that both for 2021 spring exam and the fall 2021 exam that the TBLS is planning on holding as well. I do want to update you that there have been no requests for Texas attorneys to become certified or recertified as National Association of Counsel for Children child welfare law specialists in 2021, but if attorneys do wish to become nationally certified, the commission will continue to work to reimburse them for the cost of that exam. Additionally, oh, sorry, I want to turn it over to Renee now, who's going to update us on the Parent Resource Work Group.
I apologize for that interruption. We are now moving on to 4D1, which is maintaining the Parent Resource Group and Resource Guide. During the current fiscal year, the Parent Resource Work Group met quarterly to refine the content of the Parent Resource Guide and discuss how to best promote and provide access to it. The work group also focused on projects and efforts to support the parents experiencing CPS cases. One of the new projects that the group has identified for the 2021 fiscal year is the creation of a family-based safety services resource guide, which will focus on providing parents who are at the pre-petition stage of a case information they need to be able to better understand and navigate the stages of investigation, alternative response, and FBSS stages of the system. This will be a collaborative project with the Texas Family Helpline. Additionally, the work group is in the early stages of planning for a discussion with Casey Family Programs regarding the possibility of a preventative pre-litigation representation pilot program. And if we move over to the next slide, under 4D2, the commission plans on continuing to support the Family Helpline through the Texas Legal Services Center. They continue to fill a niche of providing legal information to individuals in the point of the case where they are not entitled to legal representation. The Family Helpline was in the midst of transitioning to working virtually right before the pandemic hit, so their staff was able to continue to provide services without any disruption to the service that they were providing. Call volume for the hotline had dipped in March, but has returned to normal levels. The highest number of calls that the helpline receives are related to investigative stages of the CPS cases, and the second highest number of calls continue to be from individuals with child safety concerns in situations in which CPS has not yet been involved or involvement is not needed. The helpline receives more calls about cases that have concluded than are currently in TMC stages of the case. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, the helpline's travel and in-person outreach efforts have had to be restricted. However, they have been able to take advantage of the benefits of the virtual environment and are able to observe hearings across at least 25 jurisdictions throughout the state. And they've been able to use that through the listings on the OCA's website of the different YouTube channels for courts. And they've been able to update information and local practices and issues that they have observed. Finally, the helpline is working on creating content to better assist callers, including a toolkit regarding interventions, guidance regarding safety issues between parents who are not in a relationship with each other, and working with the parent resource group on creating the family-based safety services version of the parent resource guide that I discussed earlier.
Thank you, Renee. I also wanted to update everyone on our commitment to promote and improve the ability of the OCA notice and engagement tool. This was a tool that's designed to improve the notice of hearings for foster placements, relatives, and DPS service provider facilities when children or youth are in placement. These are people who often need to know about hearings, but they're not legal parties, so they don't get the legal notices. So the project uses non-confidential case data to provide email notices to those users about upcoming hearings. It continues to expand. The number of users is up to 1,515, including 217 users who get notifications only by text. The goal is to continue to expand this notification tool to all courts, not just CPC courts that hear child protection cases, so they can provide parties with up-to-date hearing information and provide courts with an alternative notification tool that's free of charge. And we are continuing to work with non-CPC courts to try to identify a court that's interested in piloting this program outside of the child protection courts. And I'll turn it back over to Renee to update us on mediation.
Thank you, Dawn. With regard to mediation, of course, we're always focused on increasing effectiveness of mediation in CPS cases. In response to the pandemic, the Children's Commission had compiled a list of experienced mediators who are willing to provide virtual mediation services outside of their jurisdictions and made this available to courts. The increased use of Zoom mediations has provided jurisdictions with limited or no access to mediators or who wish to expand the use of mediation during this time with the ability to do so. Additionally, the Commission is committed to following up on the roundtable that was held in February of 2019 regarding issues surrounding mediation and CPS cases. We are in the process of forming a work group dedicated to analyzing the issues that arose from that roundtable, addressing some of the challenges and opportunities presented by the virtual mediation environment, and developing action items at CPS cases for CPS cases across the state. Invitations to that work group have been sent out to potential members, and the first work group meeting will commence on October 16th of 2020. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. Under 4G1, the Commission supports several initiatives to elevate youth voice and normalcy practices. Texas CASA will continue their work on a role-based normalcy guide under a no-cost extension grant, and they plan to publish the guide by the end of the year. Once the guide is published, we anticipate one or more trainings to accompany the release. Texas Network of Youth Services will utilize grant funds to continue updating the Independent Living Guide and work with the DFPS PAL program to update its curriculum in support of normalcy standards. TNOYS will also support their Young Adult Leadership Council, or YALC, and fund YALC internships. And lastly, the Commission will continue to provide print funds for the Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid Texas Foster Youth Project's Aging Out Guide.
Thank you, Jocelyn. So I wanted to update the projects under the data committee. The Commission is committed to continue to utilize the data analyst position to assist the Commission with data projects to identify, track, and measure outcomes and identify best practices and areas that need improvement. Some projects that we have been working on with the data analysts had to be put on hold while we sort of adapt the primary projects to pandemic conditions. Some other projects have been able to move forward, such as our evaluation of the PMC Specialty Court in Dallas with the Texas Alliance for Child and Family Services, as well as Casey Family Programs. And as Judge Schneider mentioned earlier, a project on improving data sharing and integration between CPCMS and the DFPS impact systems so that those data systems can more closely align and complement each other when courts are trying to analyze cases. Unfortunately, there was some turnover in the data analyst position. It became vacant on July 9th, but that position has now been filled again. The Texas Alliance for Child and Family Services has hired a new person to become that data analyst, and meetings on all of the data projects have resumed. The commission is continuing to work with that data analyst on some of the existing projects, including data assistance for jurisdictions who will be attending the new virtual Judicial Trauma Institute that will be held this February, and making sure those jurisdictions have support to track data regarding the policy changes that they want to implement following that meeting. Additionally, the data analyst will assist us with the integration of the regional data presentation and review session that we anticipate will occur as a supplement to the virtual Child Welfare Judges Conference that will be held on October 27th of 2020. And I believe that date is sometime in December.
Thank you, Dylan. Perfect segue. Hi, everyone. This is Milbury. I'm happy to tell you, as always, about our judicial training projects that are coming up. As you may know, every year the Children's Commission partners with the Texas Center for the Judiciary to plan and host 3 judicial training events. The first one coming up that Dylan just mentioned is the October 27th Child Welfare Judges Conference. Every year we put this on with TCJ, and it's designed to provide curriculum for judges who have at least 15% of their docket devoted to CPS cases. This year, of course, we've gone virtual, and so we've compacted the schedule into 6 hours worth of presentations. We will start with welcoming remarks by Justice Guzman, and we will cover these very relevant and timely topics: COVID in the courts, equity, prevention, education, substance use in CPS cases, and community-based care updates. We'll close with a judicial discussion led by one of our jurists in residence, Judge Hoffman. And I'm grateful in advance to all the speakers who are currently on this call who will be presenting at that time. We're looking forward to it. Our second judicial offering that's coming up after that is the 2021 Family Justice Conference. Every year, the Children's Commission provides funding and 3 speakers on the CPS track of that conference. It's designed for general jurisdiction judges. So of course, we're developing curriculum with that audience in mind. That will be held on January 14th of this year. It's scheduled as a live conference. And I am delighted to announce that during this meeting, I was able to confirm the final speaker. We'll have Judge Graves Harrington speaking on 2 judges about from TMC to positive permanency. Judge Robin Sage will be speaking about prevention, and Judge Thomas Stuckey and Katie Drummond of Travis County will be presenting on reasonable efforts. This third conference that we'll be working on with TCJ this year will be, as you've heard, the Judicial Trauma Institute. I will add to the previous conversation simply to say that although we've converted from the Beyond the Bench format over a longer period of time, we're making sure that the core elements will be included in this conference so that judges and their court teams who attend will leave with very practical tools to be able to develop trauma-informed and trauma-responsive courts. Also, as Judge Byrne mentioned, we're able to open it up to a larger audience because it's gone virtual. Finally, I want to add that because TCJ will be taping this conference, we will be able to archive it and share that with a lot more people than we would have ordinarily if we'd had this conference in person. Also, as of yesterday, I'm happy to announce there's another judicial training event that will be on our calendars. In mid-December, on December 11th, the Commission will be partnering with the department to provide additional judicial education on what's happening at the department. This will be a supplement to the Child Welfare Judges Conference, and it will allow for meetings between the judges and their regional directors. We're very happy that this will be going forward, and please stay tuned for more announcements about that. The next strategy, which is 6A2, involves the child protection courts and training them and their court coordinators on relevant and timely topics. Every other year, we have what we call a CPC convening. So we'll meet again in July of 2021 with the 30 CPC judges and their court coordinators. This will be a specialized training to make sure to support them and assist them with their data management process and their docket management. So that's all for the judicial training update. I'm delighted to announce that Renee Castillo will be taking over the attorney training. I want to turn it over to her to tell you about that and about our scholarships.
Thank you, Milbury. Moving on to 6A3, producing high quality training and evaluating, delivering content. The Children's Commission is dedicated to the high quality training of attorneys accepting child protection cases. Each year, the Commission assists with curriculum in several different CLEs. First, our annual trial skills training, which was scheduled for June of this year, was postponed due to safety considerations and restrictions on gatherings. However, the trial skills training staff was able to provide 8 hours of virtual training to our students, and we will convene our second portion of that training to our students in February of 2021. In addition, we are currently working with Embassy Suites in San Marcos on a contract to provide an in-person trial skills training to the new cohort of students in September of 2021. We also plan to partner with the Texas Bar CLE for our Day at the Bar, taping of 6 hours of CLE offerings for attorneys practicing child welfare law once it is safe to do so and the bar building has been reopened to the public. We will also continue to plan, host, and archive in-house webcasts in addition to the 6 hours as a supplement of that Day at the Bar, to provide additional opportunities for attorneys to receive relevant training as the need arises. We've established a YouTube channel for additional educational videos, and we are always willing to accept any suggestions for webinar content. We want to make sure that everything we provide is relevant, and we will also continue to survey attorneys and judges after we've provided these CLEs in order to ensure that we are providing content that people feel is needed. Finally, the Commission provides content for speakers at the CPS track of the Texas District and County Attorneys Association Crimes Against Children CLE, which is held in non-legislative years. TDCAA is working on rescheduling the 2020 Crimes Against Children CLE for April of 2021, and we will be prepared to have content for that track if that is something that can be scheduled. Under 6B1, supporting attendance at state and national judicial and legal conferences and training events. We have plans to provide scholarships to several events in the next fiscal year, including the Advanced Family Law, Abuse and Neglect one-day CLE, the Child Protection Law Section Annual CLE, the NCJ FCJ Annual Conference in St. Louis, which will be held in July of 2021. In addition, the NCJ FCJ conference for judicial, NCJ FCJ National Conference for Juvenile Justice will also be held this coming year in Dallas. And so we hope to send some of our Texas judges to that as well. And we will also provide scholarships to DFPS regional attorneys attending the TDCAA Child Abuse and Neglect CPS track in April if that is held. Finally, the Commission anticipates partnering with the National Association of Counsel for Children to support their annual conference in August of 2021, and by providing attorney scholarships for both registration and travel if it is allowed. Thank you.
As the exciting news that Justice Guzman announced earlier about Sheila Craig becoming our equity advisor, we will be utilizing Ms. Craig's guidance as we create a new work group focused on equity. We'll also harken back to all the work that the Commission has done over the years in this area and continue using an equity lens in all the work we do. The work group will explore strategies for addressing disproportionalities and reducing disparities in the child welfare system. We hope to utilize this work group's expertise to review and revise the related bench book, chapter, and bench cards. And as Milbrey mentioned, staff will also highlight equity in conference sessions during Child Welfare Judges Conference, Judicial Trauma Institute, and other events as they come up. And additionally, the Commission staff will continue to participate in a joint effort of the State Bar of Texas Child Protection Law Section's Multicultural Work Group and the Travis County Child Welfare Racial Equity Collaborative to develop a new mandated reporter training that has a race equity focus. And the next one is mine as well. In our tribal state relationships, for the fiscal year 21, we'll of course continue collaborating with our 3 tribal partners here in Texas, as well as federal partners and the DFPS staff focused on tribal relationships. And we are currently excited to explore a possibility with this partnership of developing an in-depth training on ICWA with a specific focus on active efforts and other key components of the federal law. This would possibly be a one-day summit that we record so that we can promote the recordings for training further down the line.
Okay, this is the home stretch. This is our last strategy, and that's really aimed at discussing how we administer the court improvement program funds and be good stewards of the money and maintain accountability. So we encapsulate that in this strategy. At this point, I know we're running tight on time, but I would like to invite Patrick to give some remarks about the budget and the financial report.
Thank you, Jamie. I'll make it quick. For those joining over the phone, the financial report can be found in the notebook under tab 4. If you joined on the computer, the report will be included on the 2 following slides. Just wanted to echo what many of the commissioners reported on. We've all had to adapt to the changes experienced in 2020 and adjust, and that includes the budget also. With conferences, trainings, travel, and scholarships, the nature of the commission's work is already tricky to estimate with certainty, even without a pandemic. Jamie, commission staff, and I have historically been able to get very close to actual expenses, and FY 2020 has definitely been the exception. Let's go ahead and we can move on to the next slide. We're going to take a look at the impact of the budget that we've had for 2020. As you can see, we carried forward quite a bit in 2019 for available funds, just under 3.5 million that were available for 2020. Our budget, our initial budget for 2020 pre-pandemic was just under 2.5 million. And that would leave us with outstanding obligations still of just under 715,000. So we've spent 1.7. We would still be in the next month of the fiscal year through September, we would be spending 715K. If you could move to the next slide for me really quick. Of that 715,000, we only anticipate spending 178,731. So the budget has really been reduced quite a bit, and we will carry that money forward on into 2021. In a conversation that Jamie and I had with representatives from the Administration for Children and Families, many of the CIP programs are experiencing difficulty in expending funds for the year, and will likely be sending back large sums to the feds that could have been used to improve the system. Luckily for us, Texas was jumped on board, and a lot of our partners were able to convert over to virtual very quickly. And with that, I want to assure you all that our program is not in that position, and we will not be lapsing any funds. So moving on down to the projected funds available for 2021. This is just an estimate of what we will receive in our federal funding for the fiscal year 2021. We typically will not see any disbursements till late October, early November, and I will provide you an update on that amount when we meet next. So we're going into 2021 with that 3.4 million. The operating expenses have increased from last year, and it includes all the projects that were just covered by the staff that were not grant related. It's also including things like equipment and subscriptions to continue to expand the commission's in-house webinars and trainings. The staff directed projects, in addition to operating the portion of operating expenses that are for personnel and salaries, the staff directed projects that you heard, all of the projects that had staff directed and next to them that were just discussed. These are direct expenses that are related to those, including travel or any other expenses to conduct those programs like printing, design for the reports, and so on. All of the grants that were mentioned would, if you go through, I hope they would all add up to that. I did them myself, but all of the grants that were just discussed, that's where this number is coming from, and scholarships as well. So for FY 2021, we have budgeted obligations of 2.276 million. And I want to reiterate that there's still uncertainty going into FY 2021 with this budget. The commission has in its procedures permission for staff to reallocate up to 20% of any one line item budget to serve a similar purpose with notification to the commissioners. If there's ever a reallocation that would exceed the 20% threshold, a vote by the commission would be required. Please note that this budget that you will vote on momentarily is a not to exceed budget, and we will provide any updates to you regarding changes at the next commission meeting. And that's all I have, Jamie. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions about the budget? That's the preliminary step to voting on the budget, which Jamie, we are ready to do.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, any questions about the budget? Then I am going to ask the staff to confirm that we have a quorum. I'd like someone to screenshot the screen so that we have a permanent record of what commissioners were on the call to approve the budget. That's very important. So can you let me know, Jamie, when we have confirmed that we have a quorum?
Yes, we do have a quorum.
All right. Everyone has had the opportunity to review the slate of activities and the proposed budget for fiscal year 2021. I gave an opportunity to our commissioners, our voting commissioners, to pose questions or discussion. I heard none. I'll make a call for that one more time. Any questions or discussion? There being none, do I have a motion to approve the slate of projects and the associated expenditures that the commission staff has presented? A motion.
So moved. So moved.
Second, Mike Schneider.
Let the record reflect that Judge Byrne moved to approve the slate of projects and the budget, and Judge Snyder seconded the motion. There be all in favor, please signify with an aye or a thumbs up or both.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the votes having carried the motion, I want to see if there are any votes in opposition. Please speak up audibly if you are opposed to the budget. There being no opposition, the fiscal year 2021 slate and budget are adopted. Thank you to our staff for the excellent presentation. As always, if you have any follow-up, if you want to get involved in any of these activities, please let Jamie or Milbury know. And thank you. And now it is 12:42. We have already heard from David Slayton. That saves us 15 minutes. DFPS, we got a very thorough update by Deneen Dryden. We'll provide a short window for any additional information. And so we are going to hear a special presentation from Lisa Ramirez, Health and Human Services Commission, then hear from our collaborative council members, anything additional DFPS has, and our jurist in residence. So it might be 1:15, and I apologize for that. So we may go, I'd like to stay on time. We may go 15 minutes over. Thank you for your patience. And so Lisa, please, thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to be here today. And over the past several years with my work with HHSC, it's been such a great opportunity to collaborate with the Children's Commission on initiatives such as working on bench books, bench cards, jurist in residence letters. And today I'd like to speak with you a little bit about an initiative that we would like to collaborate on regarding behavioral health. The policy that I want to discuss is related to opioid use disorder. So as you're well aware, opioid use disorder is impacting our communities in Texas. It is the leading cause of accidental death in the United States. It's driving down our life expectancy. It is the leading cause of death for people under 50. Studies have shown that opioid addiction medications are clinically effective in reducing substance use and promoting recovery. There are 3 FDA-approved medications used to treat opioid use disorder: methadone, buprenorphine, and extended-release naltrexone. They're all very different medications, and each case should be tailored individually to meet the needs of patients, as you're aware. Studies have shown that using medications for opioid addiction treatment results in drastic decreases in healthcare and associated criminal justice costs. So for every dollar we invest in medication-assisted treatment, there's a $12 return on associated healthcare and criminal justice expenditures. And while these medications have been deemed effective, there are significant barriers to access that continue to perpetuate. And over the past several years that I've worked with the Health and Human Services Department in the behavioral health services area, we have made great strides with the Texas Targeted Opioid Response Initiative to create greater geographic access to effective treatment, and have increased the proportion of people who receive evidence-based treatment for opioid use disorder. Next slide, please. So the background for this effort is that we have established that a combination of medications and counseling for moderate to severe opioid use disorder is considered to be the evidence-based treatment. However, it was identified during the development of the 2020 Executive Commissioner's Business Plan that Health and Human Services funds treatment for opioid use disorder that is not evidence-based. So there still is some demand for treatment that is not evidence-based, and we do continue to pay for that treatment, despite the fact that it can result in repeated, costly, multiple admissions for patients. But furthermore, for people who are admitted to these types of services that are not considered evidence-based, it poses serious health risks to individuals suffering from opioid use disorder when they enter into treatment that is not considered evidence-based. So as a result, we have prioritized developing a policy that incentivizes the provision of evidence-based treatment for opioid use disorder. Next slide, please. So our new policy area, which I'm a part of, has created a work group to develop a policy to incentivize evidence-based treatment for opioid use disorder. Our task is to develop or change existing policies that incentivize evidence-based treatment. The purpose is to increase the proportion of people who receive evidence-based treatment for opioid use disorder specifically. And we are using the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's policy process, policy analytical framework, and policy evaluation. And if you will note on this diagram, we are in the policy, we've already identified the problem. We're in the policy analysis and development stages. And the Children's Commission's role in this process lies in the center of the entire process as a key stakeholder that we would like to engage to provide feedback, insight to our policy that we draft. And we would like to continue to update the Children's Commission as to the policies that we are developing as we evaluate the policy, the evaluation, and the continued quality improvement that can occur when we have continual stakeholder engagement. So that is the ask of the Children's Commission, and we look forward to collaborating with you on this policy development initiative. Next slide. So I know we're running short on time, but if there are any questions, I'm glad to answer them.
If I could just make a quick comment, thank you so much for presenting this. This is one of those topics that often it's addressed not scientifically, but anti-scientifically. There was a study that came out in February of this year that showed that medication-assisted treatment for opioid use, especially if it's with methadone and buprenorphine, is the only treatment for this type of disorder that's actually better than all other types of treatment, or even people who decide to quit on their own. Those all sort of have about the same efficacy. And so I really appreciate you bringing this up. Do you think that FPS will sort of adopt this as something where they would require some of the substance folks to people who actually provide MAT treatment?
Yeah, so you bring up a very good point. There are a lot of misconceptions that still remain about the efficacy of medications for the treatment of opioid use disorder. And I thank you for your comments on that. There is a 90% effectiveness rate and a very low effectiveness rate for treatment without the use of medications for this particular disorder within the realm of substance use disorders. Yes, and we are hoping, so over the years, what we have done is we've increased geographic access by increasing our provider base, by incentivizing providers that provide this type of service to do business with the state to provide these types of services. So when I first came on board, we contracted with less than 10% of the licensed providers. Then we doubled that number with increased funding and doubled that number yet again, and are continuing to expand access through different types of opioid treatment access, not just through clinic-based, but office-based treatment as well. And so we're hoping to do more education with different agencies that have an impact on and an influence on where patients are led to treatment, and to decrease the stigma associated with using medications alongside counseling and other behavioral therapies as a modality for treatment. We still have a lot of work to do.
Awesome.
Are there any other questions? Well, thank you so much. And I really look forward to our continued collaboration on this issue, and we'll be glad to provide updates in the future. And thanks again.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez, for that informative presentation. And we look forward to working with you and alongside you on this important work. And thank you, Judge Snyder, for your input, always very insightful and helpful. Now we'll move on to the Collaborative Council member input. Written reports from Collaborative Council members were requested in advance. Materials submitted by Andrea Sparks from the Office of the Governor's Child Sex Trafficking Team are included in the meeting notebook. Collaborative Council members are also able to give a verbal update similar to the yellow cards that we typically utilize in the meetings. Mary Christine Reed is an attorney and director of the Texas Foster Youth Justice Project. Mary Christine has served for quite some time on the Collaborative Council, and she is always a member who brings great insights. And so Mary Christine, I know you asked for a few minutes and the floor is yours. I think you're online now.
All right. Hello, how are you all doing? I'll be quick, but I just wanted to let you know a few things about what the Texas Foster Youth Justice Project has been doing. We are working in remote operations, but we have continued to serve the current and aged out foster youth clients that contact us and provide guidance to those that work with foster youth. I am part of Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, and the legal aid programs in Texas are all providing extensive legal services to low-income families and families facing legal crises during these difficult times. And so if you are working with families that are needing legal assistance with housing related issues or trying to get their economic impact payment or unemployment, I encourage you to check out the resources we have at Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, and Texas Law Help can also help direct you to whoever the local legal services provider in your community is. Our Aging Out Guide 7th edition is online. It is also available from print copies. Once we ever move back to our office, we will continue to ship those, but it is available online. We developed some resources this spring related to the economic impact payment, specifically about foster youth and children in foster care. We distributed that to DFPS, which they shared with their preparation for adult living services, transitional living services program with Texas CASA and the Children's Commission. And we've assisted some youth with issues when we had in particular one youth who was in the supervised independent living program who discovered a problem with the way the foster care payments for his housing were being reported to the IRS. And we were able to work with the university that was involved in that and come up with a successful resolution. So our client was not getting taxed thousands of dollars for his foster care payments to pay for his housing. And we're sharing that information with others involved in the SIL programs at universities and colleges. So hopefully other foster youth won't face that additional burden or problem. In 2019, legislation was passed to make it somewhat easier for homeless and foster youth to obtain their Texas identification card, driver's license, and birth certificates. And this summer, that DPS finally has fully implemented all of the procedures related to that. And so our project, some of the provisions were in place back in the winter time, and we released information particularly for homeless youth, but now it's available for both homeless and foster youth, where we're in the process of working on developing materials about that and working with DFPS and the Children's Commission. We hope to put on some trainings and put together a jurist in residence letter about it. This is a really critical issue. Foster youth are supposed to have their ID documents before they turn 16. It does not happen a lot. I just did a Zoom PAL class last night, and 3 of the 5 students who were there do not have their documents, despite the fact that they're close to 18 years old. And so I look forward to more information being sent out soon, and hopefully everybody involved in the process will know exactly what's how it can happen and what they need to ask for, and the caseworkers can issue those forms, and people can, at this point, schedule an appointment at DPS and go in and get those IDs. And speaking of jurist and residence letters, we did issue a letter in June about the Medicaid program, which is something we have worked on ever since the former foster care children's Medicaid program, which provides Medicaid to aged out foster youth until age of 26. And I hope you all had a chance to see that. If not, it's on the Children's Commission's website, and it gives you some good basic information about the program. And our Texas Foster Youth Justice Project is always available as a resource if you need more information or need to refer a youth who is having difficulty accessing the program. And that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much for that update. I don't think we had any other collaborative council members that signed up to speak at the meeting. And so we will move to the DFPS CPS update. Again, just supplementing the remarks that were made earlier. I'll turn the floor over to you all.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I had planned to briefly discuss how DFPS is responding to the COVID pandemic and how we are working with homeless youth and my vision for the agency. I think Janine and others covered our COVID response well, so I will just move on to our kiddos that are aging out. Since joining DFPS as commissioner, I have met many passionate people, including Christina Meredith, a former foster youth from Florida. who is an amazing advocate for foster care issues, primarily homelessness and mental health challenges. After she aged out of care, Christina was homeless for a time and endured several hardships before a positive turn in her life, including becoming a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army. She now lives here in Austin and is working with us. Recently, I joined Christina and Christopher Patterson, a U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Administrator, who was also in foster care, to write an op-ed about the Foster Youth to Independence program. This program provides vouchers to youth who are at risk of homelessness, and to date, DFPS has secured 67 vouchers through the housing authorities in Harris County, El Paso, Mesquite, and San Marcos. We have 6 youth set up with new housing, and 37 applications are pending with the housing authorities. And we will push hard to get the rest of our kids matched so that they can get the help that they need. As many of you know, if our kiddos age out without housing and good connections, they could be at risk of human trafficking. So we will be very intentional about permanency and housing for our older youth. Lastly, I've created a roadmap in hopes of improving outcomes for our kiddos and vulnerable adults in my vision statement for DFPS. I first want to stress the importance of family preservation and preventing abuse and neglect before it occurs. I have tasked the Prevention and Early Intervention Division with building an even more extensive network of support and services for our communities. Additionally, the passage of the Family First Prevention Services Act has provided Texas an excellent opportunity to prevent children from entering the foster care system. Recently, DFPS submitted a comprehensive strategic plan that provides options and recommendations to implement FFPSA. To strengthen and preserve families, we must increase family engagement so families understand the process they are involved in and what is at stake. In addition, we must also look deeper into disparities that exist for those entering the front door and taking longer to exit. However, we believe that abuse and neglect is, if we do believe that abuse and neglect is occurring, then we must take swift action to protect children. Another way to improve outcomes for families and children is community-based care. DFPS is dedicated to working with providers and communities so that CBC will be successful as we expand it across the state while maintaining strong oversight and quality control. Also, placing children with family members improves outcomes. In 2019, 40% of the children removed from their homes were placed with their kin, and half were adopted by family members. DFPS is also committed to providing greater support to older youth in foster care by expanding our supervised independent living program with our partnership with Christina and Chris I mentioned earlier. DFPS can't do this important work alone. I am committed to the continued expansion and strengthening of our relationships with the faith-based and the secular communities. We need everyone to stand with us to show up for our kids. As you know, DFPS has been involved in a federal lawsuit. It is imperative that we comply with the court's orders while we strengthen and improve the agency's operations. Because this is so critical to DFPS's mission, I have created the Compliance Coordination and Strategy Division to oversee that vital work. And finally, strengthening our workforce plays a role in improving outcomes for our clients. DFPS will improve recruitment efforts to hire the most qualified caseworkers and supervisors and support their development so they can successfully perform their jobs. I want to thank everyone at the Children's Commission whose work in our shared mission is so important to the children across the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Masters, for that update, and we look forward to working with you. We stand together in this mission, and so we stand with us, we stand together with you. And any questions for Commissioner Masters or anything that you all want to express at this time? And Trevor, thanks for being here as well. Trevor. All right, well, there being no questions, we thank you so much. We know you have another meeting to get to at 1 o'clock, and we appreciate your patience and your participation. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the last item on the agenda is the Jurist in Residence report. Judge Dean Rucker, Judge Rob Hoffman, the floor is yours.
Thank you, and I'll be brief. If there's anything I think today that's been self-evident, it is the passion, the enthusiasm, the creativity, the scholarship, and the determination of your Children's Commission staff. And I will tell you that I'm honored to serve as one of the Jurist in Residence. And I'm also so happy to be serving with such an exemplary professional staff. Thank you all.
Anything else?
Nothing for me. Judge Hoffman will take over.
Yeah, Judge Hoffman.
Nothing else from me. We look forward to the legislative session that's coming up in the spring. We'll be working on that this fall. So thank you all.
All right. Is there any new business?
It's not new business, Justice Guzman. I just wanted to raise the issue. Jury trials are about to start happening, and in our jurisdiction, CPS cases are prioritized. We have 30 that are in drop dead deadline. I'd like for the judges to consider the challenges that our Venari panel are going to have and the consideration of hotspots being provided for Venari panelists and consistent technology tools. So we in Travis County have acquired about 100 hotspot contracts as well as about 100 tablets, so that if an entire Venari panel cannot participate accurately and aggressively with good quality technology, our jurisdictions are going to need to have that in order to try these CPS cases that are in that backlog that Mr. Slayton raised earlier.
I worry about that too. In my role at the court is how going virtual impacts low-income families, and they just don't have the access. They don't have the Wi-Fi. And I know there are ongoing efforts to provide that through the Office of Court Administration, but it's also an issue with bias and whether the people of color may experience more bias in some formats than others. So there's a lot to work through, and I think we all continue to explore this new world in a way that makes sense. Anyone else before we adjourn? All right, the 2021 commission meeting dates are February 26th and May the 14th. I don't know if we'll be virtual in February. We may be, but thank you all so much for your participation today. We're only 6 minutes late, and so thank you. We made up our time, and I appreciate you all so much. Stay safe, and we'll see you in February. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.